Welcome to the Saturday Football Show. I'm Peter Martin, and I'm delighted to say Tam McManus is here with me as we bring you the half-time scores from across the Scottish Premiership, the lower leagues in Scotland, and of course we'll take a look at the English Premier League as well. Great to have Tam alongside me as far as the Premiership is concerned. Goals few and far between, only one. It's St Mirren 1, St Johnstone 0. Elsewhere, 3 games, all drawing a blank.
Yeah, not much to talk about, Peter. Obviously, we watched a wee bit of the first half of the Celtic game there. It's not much of a game. I think Celtic looked leggy from the game midweek. Hibs have been poor on the ball as well, and I think 0-0 is probably a fair reflection of the first half. I think both managers will be asking for more in the second half. Hibs went pretty attacking again. They went to 4-4-2, so there was a lot of eyebrows raised with that team, but they've been okay so far. I don't think Celtic have troubled them too much, and Hibs will look to try and get that first goal and try and maybe nick something out of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And over and above that, they still persist with this passing the ball out from the back, which is bringing a high press, and every keeper is under pressure. David Marshall almost gave a goal away.
Yeah, that's the only time that Celtic have really caused. I think Hibs have caused their own problems, Peter, by trying to play out from the back. It seems Nick Montgomery wants to do that, and that's the way he's going to play. And if they make mistakes, they make mistakes. But he's going to persist with it. But they've got away with it so far in the first half.
Okay, you can give us your thoughts on that, especially at Easter Road. A good meeting between the two sides and the two managers' ethos. Nick Montgomery wants to play attacking football. It came undone against Rangers. Will it be the same case against Celtic? And what about Celtic feeling a little leggy maybe after their exertions against Atletico Madrid? Give us your thoughts. Livingston 0, Dundee 0, Motherwell 0, Ross County 0. And St Mirren, with that 1 goal advantage in the Scottish Premiership, is actually the only goal in the top flight in Scotland. So with that in mind, I think St Johnstone will be looking for goals, but Bacchus is the only man to find the target so far.
Yeah, and that's a problem for St Johnstone. I think we spoke about it yesterday. 3 goals they've scored in 8.5 league games. They're going to have to score one today to get something out of the game. I think if St Mirren go and get that second goal early in the second half, I think that's game over. I don't see St Johnstone coming back from that. But 1-0, you're always in the game. Anything can happen. But I think St Mirren, Stephen Robinson will be looking to get that quick second goal. And I don't think St Johnstone would come back for 2-0. Yeah,
there's a different complexion going on in the Championship. 2 games last night. Queen's Park with a 2-2 draw against Partick Thistle, and Dundee United hammered Arbroath 6-0. A double from Moult. He's got 8 for the season now. They are, I think, 7 points ahead of Raith Rovers, albeit Raith Rovers have a couple of games in hand.
Yeah, I think that Dundee United look strong favourites for that league. I think the squad that he's assembled, he's managed to keep the ones he wanted to keep. Louis Moult's come in and he's been a great sign. I think he had injury problems at Motherwell, unfortunately for him, but at Dundee United he's hit the ground running. I think the Championship is a good level for him. Tony Watt's there as well. So listen, they've got more than enough to win that league comfortably. Raith Rovers look as if they're kind of the only opposition at the minute.
In the Championship today, it's 0-0 between Ayr United and Greenock Morton. Inverness Cally Thistle a goal up on Ayr Dronians, and Raith Rovers 0, Dunfermline 0 in what they call that derby, Fife derby.
Fife derby.
There is a real, obviously every area you always get this form of tribalism. Tribalism is the only way to sum it up.
Yeah, and I've played in that for Dunfermline against Raith Rovers, and it's quite feisty. It's a bit of a derby, obviously a local derby, but both teams, I think Raith Rovers having a good season, Dunfermline not having a particularly good season. I fancied them to be up there, but if Raith Rovers beat them today, it looks as if it's going to be a 2-horse race now in a battle for the playoff places. But there'll be certainly a big crowd there, and that'll be a feisty game as always in Fife.
Yep. Okay. What about League One? Edinburgh City 2, Annan Athletic 1, Falkirk 3-0 up on Alloa. It's Kelty Hearts 0, Stirling Albion 0 at half time. Queen of the South 0, Cove Rangers 0. Montrose against Hamilton Accies is a 5:30 kick-off, and then there's a whole raft of Scottish Cup matches that are being played today, and I think one of them caught your eye, Tam.
Yeah, it did. I can't believe the result. Trinent are beating East Kilbride 5-0 at half time. I think East Kilbride were favourites to win the game. I think they're above them in the Lowland League. East Kilbride are flying in the Lowland League, and that is an absolute shocker. To go through to Trinent in the Scottish Cup and be 5-0 down. That's the shock so far of the Scottish Cup of what I can see. I think Jeanfield Swifts were beating Elgin. I think that's obviously a non-league team against a league team. So it looks as if there's going to be a few upsets in that division in the Scottish Cup.
Yeah, don't forget you can download the PLZ Soccer app. We've got so many different programmes for you to watch and enjoy, and the figures have been absolutely superb for us with regards to our variety that we're offering on PLZ Soccer. Not only do you get the chance to watch the football show with Neil Lennon on a Monday and Lee McCulloch on a Friday, with Tam and myself and Ruffy. Over and above that, you've got the women's football show. We've got the journos, which is proving to be very popular as well. And we also have Straight Talk, where I interview people from not only the world of football, but entertainment. We're going to throw in a wee bit of politics as well, Tam, just at the right time, so that you can have a ding dong with a politician as well.
I'll leave that to you. I'm concentrating on football, Peter. Politics is not for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget, if you are watching us, then share it, and don't forget to follow. And if you hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, you'll be able to catch up with all of our unique video content. So, not many great goals to talk about in the Scottish Premiership at the moment, and maybe we'll get an opportunity a little later on in the programme to talk about the games tomorrow as well. Kilmarnock, Aberdeen, Rangers, Hearts. We'll hear from Philippe Clement and Stevie Naismith, and also Derek McInnes and Nicky Devlin ahead of their match down there at Rugby Park. But today, goals in short supply as far as the English Premier League is concerned at the moment. Of course, there was a game last night in which Tottenham moved 5 points clear at the top with that win against Crystal Palace. Ange Postecoglou just keeps going on, confounding everyone. And of course, the former Celtic manager, well aware of the fact that it doesn't matter if you're top in October, that doesn't really matter. He is more than happy to tell everyone about how they managed to get to the top.
Yeah, look, I guess, I mean, obviously the top of the table's great and the results are great, but it's more in the manner we're doing it. Like, there's, pretty much from the first game, we've had all sorts of different kinds of challenges we've had to overcome, and every time there's been a real sort of focus and clear-headedness about the group collectively to deal with that, and that's been a really pleasing thing. And because they're getting rewards from that, then that kind of, gives us the opportunity to accelerate the growth of giving them more sort of tools out there to help them.
Everything he touches at the moment turns to gold.
Yeah, listen, he's flying down there. I'm glad he is. I think there was a lot of eyebrows raised when he went down to Tottenham. He's performing in a one-team league sort of thing, and he's won everything up here. And we don't get a lot of respect, in English football for Scottish football. And for him to go down there and start the way he has, 5 points clear. Listen, there's a long way to go. I think there's still 26 games to go, but that was the 3 games. I've spoken about it with 3 games. They had Luton, Fulham, and then Crystal Palace, and you thought, take 9 points out of them. You give yourself a chance to go on top in November, and they have done that. So fair play. They'll obviously get tougher tests to come, but the Tottenham fans, and Ange seem to be made for each other. Tottenham have always been that kind of club. Come back to Glenn Hoddle and Klinsmann and Ozzy Ardiles, where attacking football, they loved it, but they never won anything. So maybe Ange can play the attacking football and win something.
Yeah, let's not put any money on it just at this moment. Let's wait for March. Anyway, what about that first half at Easter Road? Our man Patrick Mullen watched it, and he can tell us exactly what he thought of it.
And there's not really a lot to report back at half time. It's Hibs 0, Celtic 0, and there has been a real lack of urgency from both of these sides, really. Neither have managed to get out of second gear, and Celtic, have to say, have had the best chance of the lot. Just on the half an hour mark, Hibs have tried to play out from the back throughout. Marshall has just played a terrible ball to Callum McGregor, and he's taken a strike, but it is well saved by Marshall. It's clear to see what Nick Montgomery is trying to do here today. His 4-4-2 formation, sitting behind the ball and waiting for Celtic to make a mistake and then pouncing on the counter-attack. It hasn't worked just yet, but we'll see how it goes in the second half. But at the break here, it's Hibs 0, Celtic 0.
Yeah, big thank you.
He's down the dumps there. He's usually buzzing.
Well, he's just summed it up perfectly, though, hasn't he?
It must be a bad game if Patrick's not excited. It must be rotten. Exactly. He usually gets excited about it. But listen, we watched a bit of the half as well, and not a lot in the game, Peter. And I think that both managers were asking for more for the second half, and substitutions could become vital in the second half.
Strangely enough, when you say that, Tam, I mean, we're talking about substitutions. When you look at Celtic's bench in midweek against Atletico Madrid, it didn't look strong. It always looks strong in the Scottish Premiership.
Yeah, it does. I think the Scottish Premier League, I think they can make a number of changes in the second half. Obviously, they've made one already. I think Ralston come on for Johnson, who I think's got a concussion issue, but Celtic have got plenty of strength and depth. Forrest, guys that can come on, Iwata, and try and change the game. But Hibs will need to score the first goal, I think, Peter. If Hibs score the first goal, gives them something to hang on to. If Celtic score the first goal, Hibs need to take more chances, then you can see Celtic maybe getting another one killing the game. So first goal is huge in the game.
Thanks to everyone who tunes in, not only on our YouTube channel, but on Facebook Live and Twitter Live, or X, as some people call it now. We are on a Saturday afternoon, 3:45 every Saturday, when there's Scottish Premiership fixtures, or enough of them on, Tam. Then we're here and we'll talk about it and we'll get your thoughts on it as well. Of course, talking about fixtures, quite a few people moaning, including, of course, Brendan Rodgers, who's not happy that they seem to be always on the travels around the festive period. He certainly had more than a few gripes at yesterday's press conference on this one, and I'm not sure. Let's see what he had to say on this issue, because Brendan clearly thinks that when you get to a situation when they're on the road for that long, he says it's not ideal. Obviously, we would have preferred to stay as it was, especially at that time of year. It's interesting, and I'm pretty sure I'm correct in this, but the last 7 years, Celtic have been away at that period of the season, so either way, we are very unlucky to be drawn away, or someone is making tricks behind the scenes. Brilliant there. Now, that's not Brendan Rodgers talking. That's somebody who's just filled his head full of nonsense. Because if Brendan Rodgers knows where Celtic are the last 7 seasons, he needs to get out more.
Yeah, I don't see the problem with Peter. I mean, obviously it's Christmas time and maybe, people are struggling a wee bit short for money. Season ticket holders can go to the game if it's at home, but Celtic should be capable of going to Dundee and winning the game. And a lot of fans will enjoy that, get up and travelling. I think, is it Boxing Day? They got up and travel to Dundee. A lot of away supporters got up and want to travel and go to the game. So I don't see a major issue with Peter. I just think it's something amounting to a molehill, to be honest. Yeah,
Paul Brady says it shows how bad the first half at Easter Road was when Patrick is on a low peep, and I think you're absolutely right on that. And of course, the fans coming into the game, Patrick was actually interviewing a few of them outside Easter Road, and then it all kicked off, and then he quickly got inside the stadium before the police sorted it out. But nevertheless, not too much to write home about. Hopefully everybody was okay. They certainly have got no chance to get themselves as high as a kite on what's on show in the first 45 minutes of that match. It's 0-0 and just starting in the second half of that game. We'll keep you up to date. Only Bacchus has scored for St Mirren in the first half of the match against St Johnstone, and as that gets underway at the second half, St Johnstone can't buy a win. They're just on a dreadful run. I don't see how it's going to change unless somebody comes in with investment, takes the Browns out of the equation, and has a new start for St Johnstone.
Yeah, listen, January's going to be massive. I don't know if Stephen McLean will get to January, Peter, the way it's going at the minute. As I said, they're struggling to score goals. They're bottom in the league. I think if they go 5, 6, 7 points adrift, I think there'll be a decision to be made by the board at St Johnstone to change it, maybe get someone in more experience. So he's got to try and battle away until January, until he gets better players in and maybe more budget. But the way the results are going at the minute, it's a long way for Stephen McLean for now to January. Yeah,
I think, it always gets headlines when either a Celtic or a Rangers manager talks about fixtures. Kenny Merchant says Don's travelling to Kilmarnock with a noon kick-off is ridiculous. And that's something that I always feel for teams in the north, especially, your Ross Counties, your Aberdeens. Sometimes the scheduling, even for major cup competitions, is ridiculous to ask them to try and get there. Unless they're on a supporters bus, some of the public transport is just non-existent.
Yeah, especially at Christmas time when people are off, and maybe the roads are bad with the snow and different things, and the weather. It's asking a lot for people to travel, 100, 150 miles to a game. So, it's... As I said, it's one of the ones, Peter. You can't please everyone. Somebody's going to be away from home. You can't have everybody at home over the Christmas period. There's going to be games where you think that's not a great fixture for them. But I think most of the teams will be travelling, away from home over the Christmas and New Year period anyway.
I don't think Rangers and Motherwell are too happy with the announcement that their fixture has a change as well.
Christmas Eve.
It's not great, is it?
I don't think. Nah, Peter, I'm not having a game on Christmas Eve. I think Christmas Eve should be. Christmas Eve and Christmas Day should be off totally.
Yeah.
And then you have a host of games over obviously Boxing Day and Grunt New Year. I think Christmas Eve, people are getting ready for Christmas.
Yeah. And of course, knowing you as I do, it's when you start to buy all your presents for everybody that means something to you.
Right, you're not wrong.
I know you're going to read your little book. Anyway, no, I agree with you. Christmas Eve, certainly you want that period of time just to relax and suddenly shut down, spend it with your family, and certainly not be involved in a fixture like that. And I don't think Rangers and Motherwell are too happy, and I think they are right with that. Talking of Fir Park, Kerry Pollock is out there watching that match.
Half time here at Fir Park. It's Motherwell 0, Ross County 0 so far at the break. In the opening 10 minutes it was County who were the more lively side, with chances for Eamon Brophy and Ryan Leake. Similar situations with the ball just being able to roll past the face of goal. No County players there to take full advantage. Luckily enough for Motherwell, they then got back into it as the game went on, with chances for themselves through Dan Casey and Brodie Spencer heading the ball off the far post. No goals as of yet, but still another 45 to come. I'll be with you at full time. It stands here at the break at Fir Park. It's Motherwell 0, Ross County 0.
Motherwell with 3 wins in the last 9 matches, so clearly it started off well for them, but we're hoping they can take something from this one.
Yeah, listen, we spoke about it yesterday in the show, Peter. I think a lot of teams in that mid-pack are 2 wins and 9, 3 wins and 9. It's very, very tight. Two wins back-to-back can catapult you, from relegation trouble into the top 6. So, yeah, I think that both teams will be looking, obviously not to lose the game, but in terms of Motherwell, that's a game after the run they've been on. They'll be looking to win that at home. I think they've got a couple of players back today. I think Beereth's on the bench, and Butcher's on the bench. 2 big players for Motherwell. So maybe the second half they bring them on and they can maybe go and give them a lift and win the game. Yeah, absolutely. And just look at that formation. I'm just going to check that. Not that I'm countering what you're saying. I'm just looking at the starting 11 with Liam Kelly in goal, O'Donnell, McGinn, Mugabe, Casey and Spencer in the 5, 3 in the middle, Slattery, Harry Payton, who's up against his brother today, Blair Spittle there, Ollie Shaw and Theo Bair up front. And of course, as far as Ross County are concerned, Laidlaw with a back 4 of Brown, Baldwin, Leake and Harmon, Allardyce, Randall and Laturi in the middle, Danda, Simon Murray and Eamon Brophy. So there's more than a few options for them from the bench as well to change that one. But we'll keep you up to date, and hopefully Kerry gets a goal or two to talk about in the second half, because there's nothing worse than going on a cold afternoon and getting no goals to talk about. I've been there on many an occasion. That's what happens when you have to work hard at the lower level. I used to get sent all across the country, Tam, to cover games. Yeah, I was not lost, Peter. I've done it a wee bit myself, obviously, with the BBC, and it seemed to be every game I get sent. It was a 0-0 at one point. So there's nothing worse, when you're trying to, get excited about a game of football and it's 0-0 and it's not a great game. There's not much to talk about. Yeah, and of course it was great that you started off with the BBC and then worked your way up to PLZ. So that's absolutely magnificent, Tom. Great to see you. Great to see you now with the ability to laugh. So like a noise up. Hi to Norman, who's there in Belfast in Ardoyne. Always great to hear from Norman. He follows us regularly, as does Paul Baird and Lee Shanley and so many others who actually regularly, when we're on live on YouTube, follow us and hit the subscribe button as well. And we've got some good competitions coming up and some good prizes to be giving away. I can tell you, as a goal for St Mirren, Mantron has scored and it's 2-0 now for St Mirren. I don't think there's any great surprise. I've got them to win 2-0. Yeah, I've got them to win 3-0, Peter. I think that, I said it at half time, I think the message from Stephen Robinson would be, let's get out in the second half and get the second goal quickly and kill this game off. And I think that's what they've just done there with the second goal. I don't see St Johnstone coming back from that, simply because, they can't score a goal. It's 3 goals I think they've scored, as I said, in 8.5 games, so they're going to have to near enough double that, to get something at the game. It's just, I'm looking at the stats, Tam, and the goal difference is -9. I mean, it's just dreadful, and they're in real danger. I mean, if Ross County or indeed Dundee could start to string a few results together, they would be cut off. And I think that's the thing about Ross County, Dundee, Aberdeen at this moment, who are all on 9 points. They're looking and saying to themselves, well, as long as there's somebody cut off, then the playoff place is only one you're trying to avoid. So I can get a quick update on what happened in the first 45 minutes in that match at Livingston at the Tony Macaroni Arena. Adam Binney.
Half-time at the Tony Macaroni Arena. It's Livingston 0, Dundee 0. Dundee's last two fixtures have both ended goalless, and I'm afraid it's looking like they're going to make that 3 in a row today. No real chances to report. The only shot on target of the game came from Luke McCowan, but that didn't trouble Shamal George in goal at all. A personal highlight for me of that first half came around 20 minutes when Antonio Portales cleared the ball into the main stand. The ball was then met brilliantly by the head of a fan who couldn't have been any older than 12 years old. He's leapt like a salmon to beat the man to his left to the ball, who I think must have been the kid's own father. That was met by a massive cheer from the home fans, but unfortunately it's the only thing they've been able to cheer for in this first half. Great kind of community, family spirit around this game. 4,000 community tickets were claimed for free by local residents before kick-off, so much busier at the Tony Macaroni Arena today than usual. So let's hope that the football can improve in the second half and give these people a reason to want to return to this venue in the future, because at half-time it remains Livingston 0, Dundee 0.
Well, you don't get that in the BBC, do you? He's describing how a punter leapt like a salmon. I mean, that tells you that there's nothing happening in the game.
I mean, it seems to be always the same when teams try and cut prices or let people in for free. That it's a stinker of a game. I remember when Sean Maloney was the manager of Hibs. Hibs cut they were playing St Johnstone actually at home. It was a fiver.
Yeah.
And it was packed. The place was St Johnstone end, it was a full house. It was a score.
No, it was dire, wasn't it? I remember it.
And
yeah.
it seems to be the same. They've got 4,000 kids in. And they could actually go home traumatised if it's 0-0 and no one to ever go back to Livingston's Park.
Yeah, let's hope not. Let's hope they. I'll tell you one
thing.
Get
a goal, come on.
Well, exactly.
Anybody.
Fair play to Livingston, because it is an area entrenched in the middle of a huge Celtic and Rangers fan base, and of course also Hearts and Hibs make the journey from West Lothian as well. So they're really up against it, and anything they can do in a marketing position to try and get kids in at grassroots level who suddenly enjoy the game. Next minute they run 2 or 3 together, and before you know it, you've got a few more Livingston fans there. So fingers crossed that something happens, that they get, even if you get 1% of the 4,000, coming back. That's a victory in my book. So fair play to Livingston. Whether they can deliver anything in the second half is another matter. I just want to draw your attention. Remember, Livingston's budget is really tight. Chelsea's is not, and over £1 billion spent, and they've been spanked by Brentford 2-0 at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, they were actually doing okay, Peter. They were starting to string a few results together. Unlucky against Arsenal. I thought they should have beat Arsenal, but that's a poor result at home. Just when they're starting to get a bit of momentum under the manager, Pochettino. Brentford come and turn them over. So I think it's going to be one of those seasons. But they've got to stick with the manager. They can't just bin another manager and pay him off. And they've got to stick with him and hope they come good. But this season for Chelsea, it will just be about maybe trying to nick a European place, because I don't see them challenging for the top 4 or any silverware.
Do you get the feeling, I'm hearing the odd murmuring here and there, that Arsenal could do it this season? They're 2-0 up in Sheffield United. Is this the season when you believe they might be able to take that next step?
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult for Man City, Peter, that they've won everything last season. So how do you motivate them again to go again? When you're a player or a manager, you've won everything, they won the treble, you come into training, what's the target again this season? The same again, to win the treble again? I think it's going to be difficult for Man City to repeat that. And Liverpool not in the Champions League, I think, could benefit them as well. Europa League will be certainly less taxing than the Champions League. You've seen that during the week. The rest of a lot of players have still won comfortably. So Liverpool, Arsenal, I think they've got the hunger to win the title. I'm not sure if Man City have got that again this season to go again. Yeah, it's hard. Winning a treble at the best of times, rare as it is. Bournemouth won, Burnley won, and that's really a battle at the bottom end of the table where Vincent Kompany is trying so hard to get a trick out of Burnley, but it's proving ever so difficult. And I think odds on, they're looking at the teams that are coming up and saying, well, Burnley's one of those teams that are going straight back down. Yeah, I think he's obviously sticking to his philosophy. They've done well in the Championship, but we all know it's a massive step up in golfing quality to the Premier League. Again, he's maybe like Nick Montgomery, he's persistent with them playing out from the back. I've seen Burnley a few times. They persist by playing out the back, and if they get in that league, if you get the ball nicked 30, 40 yards from goal, these teams will punish you. And that seems to be happening with Burnley, but they might get out of it because I think Luton, Sheffield United, you're right, the 3 teams that have come up will probably all be favourites, but maybe a Bournemouth or a Wolves or a Crystal Palace could get sucked into it later on as well. Yeah, Mikel Mondron and Kiana Bacchus are the goal scorers for St Mirren, and if you're looking for a team and a set of fans who are well happy with what's happening, it's certainly out Paisley way, because Stephen Robinson can do no wrong over at the stadium, the Smitsa Stadium as it's called.
Good football, got a good bunch of lads there. He's a good manager. He's a good man manager as well. And as they said in the old days, I like the cut of his jib. I like Stephen Robinson.
Yep, he showed at Motherwell, Peter. I think they got to 2 cup finals. Unfortunately, they ran at the Brendan Rodgers team. But getting them to cup finals, getting them 3rd and 4th in the league was superb. And listen, you just look to keep building on that. But you know, the thing with them is they've got a settled squad, Peter, and they've got 4 or 5 international players. They seem to have recruited well from Australia. They've got guys playing for Australia and playing for national teams. So it's been a long time since St Mirren have had 3 or 4 international players playing with them, and that seems to be the settled squad. Gogic coming in as well from Hibs, is a good player, and they've got a real steady squad and they can score goals as well and they can mix it. So and they're strong at home. So I think they look nailed on at the minute to get into the top 6.
Yeah, thank you to so many of you for watching, not only on our YouTube channel. If you do get a chance, hit the subscribe button, but also on Facebook Live on a Saturday afternoon and early evening. We're on there every Saturday when there's Premiership football on offer, and also we're live on Twitter. You can follow us on PLZ Soccer there. If you download the app, you can actually watch the programme and all the breaking stories on the app as well, which has got a variety of live programmes, recorded stuff, and no shortage of enjoyment. Hopefully, if you're a women's football fan, then you can watch the Women's Football Show with Alison McConnell, Kerry Pollock and special guests. And if you are a football show in the men's game, then Lee McCulloch and Neil Lennon join us, and we thoroughly enjoy their company on a Monday and a Friday, Tom.
Yeah, we do. It's been great to get obviously a few new faces in this season. Neil's great to get him in, to get his perspective on it. He's been there as a player, he's been there as a manager, at the highest level in terms of playing and managing. It's great to have his viewpoint, and obviously Lee as well. Great player, played at the highest level and coached, with Hearts. So it's great to get these guys' view on the football and on Scottish football and European football. And they're not shy to give their opinions either.
Yeah, absolutely. We like somebody who's gobby, don't we?
Yes, that's why you got me in.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why I got you in, because gobby, and then you're the type of guy who shouts at an uncle from across the street and then runs away. Is that the best?
I don't reply to the morons.
I know.
Point, if you start replying to people, you're better on night. You're better on night, Peter.
I did it yesterday. I had to throw it out there because
you cannot bite, Peter. You just put it out and then just don't look.
I know, but do you know what? You know me, I love a noise up. But I did actually mention to them, do you know, I got up the other morning and I actually started to doubt myself on the basis of, I never said that Hearts and Hibs were the cause of Celtic and Rangers derby not being, what it should be. I was merely pointing out the fact that, quite simply, you like a huge away support in a derby match. And I pointed out, rather than people, finger pointing about where it all started with Rangers, it was actually at the tail end of the season, I think it was 2018, Leanne Dempster and Hibernian cut the Rangers allocation at the tail end of the season. So they cut the Rangers allocation and said, look, we're going to look after our own fans, which is perfectly within our rights to do that, because she was the chief executive at Hibernian, and that's what they did. But that, in turn, started a snowball effect where suddenly Rangers jumped on it, and then from there we got the tit for tat with Celtic, and the whole and Hibs did a U-turn because they were going to do it in the derby as well, but realised, there was a wee bit of consternation, a wee bit of chat, and then they didn't. So it's a strange one, but as you say, as soon as I put it out there and I thought, oh, they're all over it, thinking. Yeah,
I was coaching and I checked my Twitter and I seen it, and somebody please remove Peter from his phone. And he's get banned for Easter Road, I know. Yeah,
absolutely. Livingston 0, Dundee 1, and it's Bakayoko who's scored. You're happy with that, aren't you?
I am happy with that. As I said, Dundee have been ticking away nicely. They've drawn 5 out of 8. They're needing to win a game at some point. Hopefully they can hope. That'd be a great result, Peter. I think Livingston, we know how hard they are to beat at home.
Yeah.
For Dundee to go there, maybe nick 3 points, would be a fantastic result and not a good result for St Johnstone.
Yeah, absolutely. Dundee, one of those sides that I want to see them remain, and I know it's a little bit selfish, but if we're looking for Scottish football to have the big games that you realise that the stadium is full and it's not with Celtic or Rangers fans, the Dundee derby is one of those ones where lots of people, in Tayside struggle to get tickets for it because it's so eagerly anticipated.
No, Peter, it's a brilliant fixture, and I was lucky to play in 2 Dundee derbies, scored in 1 and get sent off in the other. So mixed
I saw that.
Memories.
You should have gone off. It was a stone waller.
Mixed memories. But the walk, you can just walk down. It was just weird. You just prayed it never got beat. Thankfully, when we played at Tannadice, we drew 2 each, and we could walk back up amongst all the fans. But it's a unique fixture. There's not many teams in the world that you can just walk 40 yards down the road and you're playing at the other team stadium. So, no, you're right. It's a great fixture. It's a great atmosphere. And there's always goals and drama in it as well. So it looks as if Dundee are going to come back up this season. So hopefully Dundee can stay in the league and you can have 3 derbies in the Premier League.
Yeah, I can tell you Ilkay Gundogan has scored the only goal of the game after 45 minutes in El Clasico. Barcelona 1, Real Madrid 0.
It's not got the same thing then, El Clasico,
No.
because it used to be on Sky, remember? Now I think it's on, I don't know what channels it or something. We've got so many channels now, Viaplay or whatever it is. But it's not got the same. It doesn't. That used to be the biggest game in the world. The two top teams in Europe. But I don't think Barcelona certainly aren't at the minute. Real Madrid are obviously still a top team, but Barcelona have obviously dipped. But it used to be that was a game that everybody wanted to see, but it's a weird time, 3 o'clock on a Saturday.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, there's been some special ones where Messi's been magnificent. The one that sticks in my head was probably the only time that the Madristas stood on, to a man and woman clapping Ronaldinho for his performance in the Bernabeu when Barcelona came in and absolutely tore Real Madrid to shreds, and he was magic. It was like a virtuoso performance from Ronaldinho. He was a special player. There's been a few real classics down through the years in that game, but you're right. I think there is a period where we just. There is a period where
8 o'clock on a Sunday night.
Where everybody had to watch it.
Everybody watched it, and it was all the best players in the world, Peter, playing with both their teams. And I don't think that's the case now. All the best players in England.
Yeah.
With the money there, your Man Cities, your Arsenals and teams like that. So I don't think it's got the same lustre as it did maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. Arsenal 3-0 up on Sheffield United now. Nketiah has scored all 3, hat-trick for him. That'll be something he gets to save, and I like that tradition of the hat-trick hero gets to keep the ball. Did you have any hat-tricks in your life?
I didn't, Peter. Not in senior.
That's quite unusual for you.
Football, I scored 6 doubles.
Yeah?
I couldn't get the 3rd goal. I'd never scored a hat-trick. I scored loads of hat-tricks at youth level and stuff like that, but not senior level. But you're right, that you're well entitled to get the ball after it, get your teammates to sign it. It's a great wee memento of your career when you look back. But unfortunately, I've not got any match balls in the house.
I can tell you that the Dundee goal has been disallowed offside. I'll tell you one thing, that's the longest VAR check I can think of, Tam. That would do your head in. By the way, Kenny Merchant says, Hi Peter, do you think McLean, Robson, Naismith were ready to manage in the top flight? I like Robson, but is he ready to manage the 3rd largest club in Scotland? Hopefully Hearts extend Naismith's contract. Kenny, I don't think Kenny's a Hearts fan. Watching from Los Angeles. And by the way, I will always have a soft spot for Tam. His goal at Ibrox was only second to Ian Jess. Now, Kenny actually regularly sends us messages as well on our app. So it's absolutely brilliant. He's joining us from Los Angeles. And it's a good point, actually. Yeah, it's a bit. Have you been to Los Angeles?
I have. I've played there. Peter scored there against Los Angeles. We lost 3-2, but I scored. Beckham was playing for Los Angeles.
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. Had a great time there. But the other thing I was going to say to you is Kenny's point here is about the 3 young. You've got to give young managers their chance. I sometimes think that when you have a young manager in place, it's good to have an experienced person there, somebody who's been over the course that maybe can just give them a little bit of their wisdom in the background, to say, okay, listen, plan A isn't working, how about trying this? How about just someone who's been over the course, rather than this going in and then you don't have the ability to ride out sometimes difficult periods. So Barry Robson, I was amazed midweek. I couldn't believe it.
They actually played pretty well, Aberdeen. They collapsed the last 20 minutes, but Tam,
they were a quality side, and I just wanted Aberdeen to shut up shop. 2-0 up. You can't lose from 2-0 up, Tam. For God's sake.
No, listen, I was devastated. Aberdeen. I thought they played the perfect game up until they scored. I think 2-0. They looked as if they'd ran out of ideas. They didn't fancy it. Aberdeen were getting fired into them in terms of tackles and pressing them. and they looked as if they didn't fancy it. They looked as if they'd rather be anywhere else in the world bar Aberdeen. But once they get that goal, you could feel the nervousness in the stadium. You think they're back in it here. But it just seems to be a fad at the minute, Peter, over the last maybe 18 months, 2 years, where a lot of teams are promoting from within, whether that be a youth coach, a reserve coach, a number 2, a young manager. You've seen it with Motherwell, Kettlewell, Naismith, Robson, Steve McLean. There's 4 off the top of my head.
Yeah.
They're looking to within, and whether that's a cheap option, maybe they can't afford an experienced manager, I don't know. Some of them are working. I think Kettlewell's done pretty well at Motherwell, but the jury's certainly out on Stephen McLean and Stephen Naismith at the minute. But I think Barry Robson's doing okay. But the expectations at Aberdeen are huge. They expect to be third every season and in Europe every season, and then competing in Europe when they're in there. They have competed in Europe this season, just they've not managed to get points on the board. But I think Barry's doing okay. I think he deserves a wee bit more time and leeway than Stephen Naismith and Stephen McLean are at the other 2 clubs.
Yeah. David Wotherspoon's the only goal scorer in Inverness against Airdrieonians by a 0-0. Not much to talk about in the Championship either, Tom.
No, it's just a dearth of goals today, unfortunately. I don't know if it's anything to do with conditions or whatever, but the conditions look okay. Yeah. But it's just sometimes you get that. Sometimes you get weekends where there's loads of goals. The goals are flying in, and sometimes you get them when they're no. And unfortunately, in Scottish football at the minute, there's not a lot of goals.
I'll tell you one thing that's significant about it. If Hibs can, keep this going the way it's going at the moment, 0-0, then suddenly you're in a situation where Rangers will be looking and thinking, here's a chance to cut into it with a new manager, trying to get a little spark out of the squad. Good performance to get a 0-0 against Sparta Prague in midweek. He'll be lifted by that if Celtic were to drop points today.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if Rangers can cut the gap, and up until that game, was it the 30th of December? If Rangers can go into that 5 points behind, knowing that if they win, they can get back into it. But there's still plenty of time in that, and Celtic are never beat until they're beat. And I think Hibs will need to score to get something out of that game. I don't see Celtic not scoring today.
What about a wee turn here? Motherwell 0, Ross County 1 in that game at Fir Park. Eamon Brophy has scored the goal, Tam.
Yeah, that could be a massive goal for Ross County. They have been toiling at the minute. They scored goals, so have Motherwell. And still obviously 20-25 minutes to go. But if Ross County can hold on to that again, that's bad news for St Johnstone. Ross County pull further away. Dundee, even if they pick up a point, pull another point clear. And St Johnstone all of a sudden look marooned at the bottom and miles off getting out of safety. Yeah, and Brophy has had more than a few injuries in his time. When he's fit, I like the look of him. Yeah, he's a good player. Listen, he got in the Scotland squad, Peter. He scored, he scored a number of goals. I think for Kilmarnock, Stevie Clark put him in the team. He went to St Mirren, which I thought was quite a weird move from Kilmarnock to St Mirren. But he went to St Mirren, didn't work out from there. He's went up to Ross County. He's been injured a lot, but he's a goal scorer. His goals record is pretty decent wherever he's been. And he could have a massive goal for Ross County today if they can hold on to that. I mean, that is a massive goal at the moment. St Mirren 2-0 up in St Johnstone, so suddenly we could be looking at the end of the day. Just backing up what Kenny said there, I mean, I think St Johnstone were looking and saying to themselves, we don't want to go out and recruit a manager. I thought they pulled the trigger too early with Callum Davidson. Yeah, they did. I think that listen, Callum Davidson will be forever, regarded as one of the, if not the best ever manager at St Johnstone. To win 2 cups in one season will never be repeated. Let's be honest, that's never going to happen again. So yeah, I think he maybe deserved a little bit more time. But when they did make the change, Stephen McLean's come in. He's untested. He's no experience as a manager, and he's finding it really, really tough at the minute. The budget was cut as well, so he's under real pressure. If they look as if they're going to lose again today. If they lose again and don't score, that's going to be 3 goals scored, Peter, in 9 games in the Premier League and bottom. That's a horrendous run of form, and I don't know if he would be able to survive that. Yeah, just as a wee side issue here on the 3 clubs that played in Europe in midweek, we're going to hear from Philippe Clement later on in the programme, and also we'll hear from some of the other managers in the other camps ahead of Rangers against Hearts. And let's not forget, because Aberdeen were in not international but European duty, they'll play Kilmarnock at Rugby Park. But as far as Rangers were concerned, Sparta Prague, it was a good 0-0. They could have snatched it maybe later on in the game. Aberdeen was painful. Celtic, 0-0 at the moment, but as far as midweek was concerned, if you're looking at a 45 minutes where I
actually looked at them and thought they're going through a real learning curve, and it's slow. I can see the shoots of what Brendan Rodgers is trying to do.
Yeah, starting off obviously with Celtic game, I thought that the first half performance was as good as I've seen for Celtic in a long time. We're obviously both used to seeing Celtic under Martin O'Neill. Big clubs coming to Glasgow and getting beat. That's not happened over the last 10 years, and for Celtic to go out there and play like that against a top team was incredible. They deserved to be going in front. Obviously the penalty stopped that. They got the second goal, and then you just think to yourself, can Celtic hold on? They couldn't, but it was a big performance, Peter, against a top team, and it seems to have taken a lot out of the legs. Looking at today's performance at Easter Road,
it's a similar team apart from obviously Hatate.
I think it was a similar team, bar Hatate, and they went out the same again. Maybe Brendan, if they dropped points today, could look at it and say maybe could have freshened up a little bit. But you just have to wait and see. He's got options on the bench to come on, and as I said, he'll definitely make changes maybe after an hour or something, Peter.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's done that just before the hour with Turnbull and Forrest coming on. Ralston come on for Alistair Johnson, who picked up a really sore head knock with a ball was cleared, blasted against him. So hopefully that kind of fear over concussion takes the player off, make sure he's safe, and give him a chance to recover. So Ralston, an able deputy, but just before the hour, Turnbull, Forrest coming on for Bernardo and Maeda, but it hasn't prompted any great change in the game so far. Still 0-0 there. And of course, let's not forget, Hibs have options from the bench. One of them, I know you're a big fan, is Adam Lafondra.
Yep. Very, very good player. I think he's 37, 38 now and still looks fit as a fiddle. He's one that could come on and cause Celtic problems late in the game. He's a good impact sub. And I think if Hibs can create something for him, he's the type that will put it in the back of the net. So, listen, Hibs will just try and hang on as long as possible and then maybe have a go and try and win it in the last 10 minutes. But it's up to Celtic to break them down at the minute.
Is Levitt a disappointment to you? Because
he's not much of a chance, Peter. He started, obviously Lee Johnson signed him and they started the season pretty well. Then he went off the boil under Lee Johnson, and then he's not come back into the team. But he seems to like Diego and Newell in the middle of the park in the 4-4-2, two kind of workhorses. But I think Levitt's more not a ball winner, but can create chances and score goals. He's got more flair than the two in there, but he has been a little bit of a disappointment. He's in the Wales squad, Peter, and Hibs paid a lot of money for him, so he's struggling to get into the team at the minute. But I just think he prefers the two kind of more combative midfielders in there, Newell and Diego.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, goals hard to come by. We thought we got one at the Tony Macaroni Arena, but that goal was chalked off, and it's still Livingston 0, Dundee 0. The VAR kicking in there, and I can tell you there's a red card now, and Christian Montano has been sent off. So suddenly Livingston down to 10 men. That's been a blow. He's had a kind of a stop-start career. It's a second yellow card for him. 2 minutes after picking up his first, he picks up the second, he's off, and now Livingston, its backs against the wall.
Yeah, I think Livingston probably happy with a point now. Dundee will sniff blood. I think they can go and win the game and pick up a big 3 points. So we'll just have to wait and see, but that definitely swings the pendulum in Dundee's favour the last 20 minutes.
It could be a good one for you in the predictor, Tam, because St Mirren are now 3-0 up. You were waiting for that third goal, weren't you?
Yeah, I said it yesterday in the show, Peter. I fancied St Mirren strongly today. St Johnstone, I think he's going to struggle. I think he's going to struggle to survive this result tonight, Peter. I think that when you look at the start of the season, 9 games, and it wasn't just that, the League Cup, Peter, Still and Albion beat them 4-0 at home. Went up in the League Cup and beat them at McDermott Park 4-0. They didn't get out their group. And in the first 9 league games have scored 3 goals and are sitting bottom of the league, I think, with 2 points, 2 draws. So, incredibly, they got a draw at Parkhead. I don't know how that happened, but I think he's going to struggle to survive that now, Peter, because I think they're now starting, particularly if Dundee nick a result now in Ross County one, they are going to be miles off the second bottom. Yeah,
I mean, it's a good point you make. I have to ask you this, though, Tam, where do they go? I mean, you have a situation where I think the Brown family have given their all for St Johnstone.
Job, Peter.
Well, who comes in as a board to take them forward and get a manager that can take them forward? It's certainly not going again down that inexperienced route. I think they need someone in there to try and galvanise the squad they have and halt the slide. Have they got enough quality in that squad?
On the evidence so far, Peter, I would say no. And it might be that I don't know who's out there, but candidates are out there. But Callum Davis obviously just sacked him. But Stephen McLean for me has not been ready. on the evidence so far, he's not ready to be a manager.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for his budget was cut, but they have been miles off in the league. I'm sure there's managers out there who would love a job maybe in the Championship or League One who's doing well and would maybe go in there, but I think they're really, really toiling, and I think he'll struggle to survive it.
Ross County 2-0 up on Motherwell now, and I think Simon Murray, who came from Queen's Park, I think a lot of people were, quite surprised when he went up there. But Malky, as ever, is one of those guys. He tries to sell them the attraction of coming up to a unique place, because up in Inverness and Dingwall, it's a lovely part of Scotland, but it's a huge commitment to go up there and maybe take your family up as well.
Yeah, but it's a big commitment, Peter. It's hard to attract players for Ross County and Inverness teams like that, because you're out the way, and every second week you've got long bus journeys. You're not getting home too late and stuff like that. So no, I think Simon's a good player. He was at Hibs, done pretty well at Hibs, and it was a few eyebrows raised when Queen's Park were top of the league and they sold him to Ross County. So again, 2-0. That looks as if it's going to be a win for Ross County, and Dundee playing against 10 men. It could be a nightmare day for St Johnstone, but is that the honeymoon period over for Stuart Kettlewell? I mean, he was lauded as picking up more points than Celtic at one point in a period of the league, and now that's how many games, Peter, without a win. If he gets beat today, I think you're 6-7 games without a win. Honeymoon period's certainly over for him. Yeah,
I think Motherwell, all they have to do is make sure mid-table, away from any kind of, I think they've got more than enough quality to, not be involved in any kind of playoff situation. I might be wrong, these things sometimes can come back to bite you, but I like him. I think he's a good manager as well. I think he's got qualities which are good enough to keep Motherwell away from the danger area. I might be wrong, only time will tell. What do you think about it all? Don't forget, on a Saturday afternoon, as well as Tam and Ruffy in the preview on the Saturday morning with Kerry Pollock, every Saturday 3:45 we bring you the updates on the Scottish Premiership, the lower leagues in Scotland, and the English Premier League 2. You can give us your view on any of the main issues, the burning issues of the moment, travelling to games, especially the fixtures that have been announced around the festive period. Brendan Rodgers certainly not happy, and I think Rangers and Motherwell have voiced their displeasure at kick-off times, and of course playing on Christmas Eve. Celtic on the road again away to Dundee on Boxing Day. All of these things, it couldn't be anything other than Scottish football. We've always got something that gets us angry and a chance to voice our displeasure. You've got the platform not only on our Twitter but our Facebook Live and YouTube Live as well. We'll keep you right up to date with all the scores. It does indeed look as if it's going to be a comfortable day for St Mirren. Ross County, great away win if they can get it, and we're just waiting now really, Tam, on whether Celtic can pick their moment and get what would be a very, very narrow win over Hibs, or whether Hibs can upset it all and throw this title race wide open if they can get a winner. Yeah, it's all to play for, Peter, in the last 10-15 minutes. I think that obviously Hibs will be happy with a point. I think Hibs took a point at the start of the game, clearly, but now you're getting into that stage of the game where one mistake, one bit of quality could win you the game, and I'm absolutely certain that Hibs in the last 5-10 minutes will be rode on by the fans to try and get that goal. But as we know from Celtic, we've seen them a couple of weeks ago at Motherwell. They scored late on, Motherwell equalised, and they got the part and scored again. So this is the dangerous times when you're playing against Celtic, that they can go and punish you and get that late goal. It's quite interesting. Nick Montgomery, on his birthday today, he's made no substitutions. He's sticking with the tried and trusted 11, and Celtic have made the 5. Mikey Johnson and O coming on. Yeah, maybe he's just happy with the way the team's playing at the minute. He doesn't, they've always obviously got the GPS. They can see who's tiring, who's fatiguing, and they can make changes on the back of that. So he's clearly happy with the players that's doing the business at the minute and getting them a point at the minute. And it's up to Celtic to try and win the game. I think, as I said, Hibs will be happy with a point. And if Celtic drop 2 points, all of a sudden Rangers have got a wee sniff of getting back in it again. Yeah, it's not a great game, to be perfectly honest with you. The first half, certainly nothing to write home about. And again, it's just waiting and trying to get that moment where somebody can produce a little piece of magic, or indeed there could be a mistake as legs start to get weary and the concentration's not there. Is there a winner between Hibs and Celtic? Keep it locked here to PLZ Soccer. We're delighted to have your company. There's lots more coming up. We've got some great interviews and straight talk, which I think you'll enjoy. And over and above that, we've got the Journos programme, where basically on a Wednesday and Thursday you get the chance to watch some journalists from right across the Scottish writing network, across the newspaper industry, coming in here and having a good old ding-dong battle on some of the burning issues, not only here domestically, but further afield as well. The big news over the last couple of days, the football that's being watched, is quite simply that Tottenham, top of the table with that win last night against Crystal Palace. Chelsea beaten by Brentford, and in the Scottish Premiership at the moment, it's 0-0 between Hibs and Celtic. It's 0-0 between Livingston and Dundee, and Motherwell, there's a fight back on. They've just got to go back, and it's Mika Bireth who's got it from the penalty spot.
Yeah, that was the one, Peter, that were disappointed to lose him. I think he just came up from Arsenal and he picked up a bad injury straight away. So he's come back, and the word from Motherwell was he was very exciting in training, and they were looking forward to him, playing for Motherwell. But he got injured early doors, but he's back with a bang a day, gets him back into it, and with 10 minutes to go, who's not to say that Motherwell can't maybe nick a point at the game now?
I'll tell you, the predictor this year is as difficult as you could think of. I mean, there were some times over the last couple of years when we've been doing it. In fact, Ruffy and I have been doing this since we started in 2012. But this year, I think it's ever so difficult because out with, realistically, Celtic and Rangers, the other teams...
It's hard to predict, Peter.
It really is tough.
We're saying 2 wins out of 9, 2 wins out of 9, 3 wins out of 9. Every team outside the Celtic and Rangers had that identical record. So, it's difficult to call. A lot of people would have fancied Motherwell to beat Ross County. A lot of people would have fancied Livingston to beat Dundee. And that's not happened either. But I'm sure that most would have went for St Mirren to beat St Johnstone and probably Celtic to beat Hibs, and that's not came to fruition yet either. So I think it could be a hard day for the predictor. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at it at the moment, and as far as the table is concerned, St Mirren would move on to 18 points, level with Rangers. I mean, that would be, again, just a feather in his cap, because if you're thinking, okay, it's 18 points, Tam, usually 37 is safety in the Scottish Premiership. That's your bog standard, either battling to get away from the playoff place, but it's certainly not a relegation figure. No, I think that St Johnstone look miles. How many points have St Johnstone got at the minute? 4. They look miles away from getting 37 at the minute. Yeah. In terms of St Mirren, listen, I think they've just got to look after business and beat the teams round about them, and beat the teams like St Johnstone and Livingston's at home, and keep that kind of consistent level up. And if they can do that, listen, they'll be in the mix for third place. And Aberdeen are obviously in Europe at the minute. I think they're going to depart shortly, and they can maybe get back to playing 1 game a week, and that will help them. But St Mirren might just, in terms of Hibs settling in with a new manager, Aberdeen in Europe, Hearts struggling. This is a great opportunity for St Mirren at the minute to just stick points on the board and maybe get a wee gap between them and fourth. Yeah, Scott Brown for St Johnstone says Kenny. That'd be an interesting choice. Sooner or later, somebody's going to be looking for a job somewhere. But I still think they need an experienced head to try and steer them away from it. I don't know who that man is at the moment. Yeah, I think in terms of management, I think if a team's went with a young manager and it's failed, I think the next one's usually experienced. And vice versa, if I've went with an experienced manager and he's failed, to go with a young manager. I don't think they would go 2 in a row in terms of a young manager going into St Johnstone. I could be wrong, but listen, it's one of those things. Scott Brown will be looking to get back in at some point, and maybe that might be an opportunity for him as well. Yeah, Livingston 0, Dundee 1. And Joe O'Shaughnessy has given them... a goal this time because last time. The thing about it is... Duff information for the... No, it's not. It was the longest VAR. I mean, if that's... what happens? The VAR kicks in, Tam. Suddenly, fans don't know whether to cheer anymore. They're looking, they're thinking... That's what I hate about VAR. Even if you're sitting and watching a game in the pub with your pals and a goal goes in, you can't jump, you can't cheer it. You don't know. It's even worse at the game.
Yeah. Well, some of the strikers now, when the ball hits the back of the net,
You've not got that euphoria.
It's the glance, and it's a long glance to wait and see what the linesman's doing, and then you're checking and saying, was that borderline because your toe could be offside? You know, and sometimes, I mean, I watched one in midweek there, and the guy's backside had played them on, and it's a goal for Real Madrid. Jude Bellingham has scored for Real Madrid to equalise. Oh, without a shadow of doubt. I mean, he's blistering, isn't he?
Oh, he's absolutely incredible. And I think, you know, looking at the leagues, the big leagues, you know, the Premier League, the Spanish League, the German League, I think he's got to be the best player in the world currently. Not only for club, but for country as well. He's been brilliant for England as well. You've seen him against Scotland, he was different class.
3-1 Ross County against Motherwell, that game there, just as Motherwell...
That should ice it, Peter, that should be 3 points, and then Dundee winning. What's the league table looking at now? St Johnstone can beat how many points are they off his second bottom now, Peter?
Well, I'm looking at it, St Johnstone would be on 4, Aberdeen to play tomorrow would be on 9, Livingston on 10, Motherwell on 10, Hibs on 10, Kilmarnock on 10, Ross County would move up to 6th on 11.
And that's how tight it is, Peter. You're talking about Ross County and a bit of bother, one victory and in the top 6. So it's a dreadful day for St Johnstone, and not only getting pumped, you know, against St Mirren, but coming off and finding out that Dundee are going to win and Ross County are going to win. Nightmare. Yeah, it is actually, and I'm looking at it and I'm wondering to myself, Tam, I just wonder where you know, it all changes for them. And of course, Dundee look as if they are in command in that match against Livingston now as well. So it looks as if we're in a situation where Livingston 0, Dundee 2. They look as if they have sealed all 3 points in that one. Remember, Livingston are down to 10 men in that game as well, which has gone really against them in that second half. There's nothing worse when you look at a game like that, and it's going to be a tight one when one of your players quite simply gets sent off, and that's the situation that has befallen Livingston. For Dundee, Peter, I think that's fantastic. Dundee would go up. Where would Dundee go on the table, Peter? Have you got the live table there? I think that they're plodding away okay at the minute. They've drew a lot of games, which has been an issue, but they've been competitive in most of the games. They're up to 4th. They'll go to 4th. They'll go to 4th place. That just shows you Dundee, you know. And I think they've only lost 1 game or 2 games. Well, with all due respect, 4th to 11th. Yeah, you know, you could throw a blanket over them all because it's 11 points and plays 9 points, so it can switch at a moment's notice tomorrow if Aberdeen were to win at Kilmarnock, and equally so if Kilmarnock suddenly were to win, then they would move up as well above Dundee, so they could go into that top 3, top 4. Shaughnessy's got that second goal for Dundee, so that's 2 for him. He's well happy with his commitment. What do you make of the scores so far? We're heading towards full time across the country. What about your team? Are you happy with them? Are you happy with the performance of them? Is there something that's angering you? And don't forget, if you hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, you can follow us and get all the variety of content, unique video content, and of course no shortage of competitions, quiz, great guests, interviews, and right across the country. Not only are we following the press conferences from the managers, but we are bringing you the best of it with our reporters out there covering all the breaking news stories. And if you download the app, you'll have it all at your fingertips on an afternoon where it's still stalemate between Hibs and Celtic. Is there a late winner in that game for either side? Dundee with all 3 points, it's looking like it against Livingston. They're 2-0 up against the 10 men. 3-1 to Ross County. Motherwell coming back in that match with Beereth getting a penalty, but Ross County have restored their 2-goal advantage in that game. Laturi, Murray and Brophy with the goals there. St Mirren, it's a good day for Stephen Robinson's side in the Battle of the Saints because Bacchus and Mandron with a double has got the goals for the Saints in the Scottish Premiership. The main news from the English Premier League, Arsenal with a 4-0 advantage over Sheffield United. Tottenham still top of the league after that big win over Crystal Palace, put them 5 points clear. We've got the Manchester Derby to look forward to as well. Yeah, we have. That'll be a good game on Sunday, Peter. Man United toiling at the minute under the manager. Man City not quite hit their straps, I don't think either. And with Tottenham going 5 points clear, it's, you know, a wee bit of pressure on Man City all of a sudden to keep tabs on them. Man United always lift their game against Man City, whether that's home or away. But I would still expect Man City to go there and win the game. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see if Man United can actually do something in a big game.
Yeah, absolutely. We will find out. Also, I can tell you, more trouble at Stamford Bridge, beaten 2-0 by Brentford. Everybody thought Maurizio Pochettino was a good appointment. There's something wrong with that club at the moment.
Yeah, there is, Peter. I think that, listen, they're going through managers. I think the owner's an American owner. The big mistake for them was sacking Tuchel after winning the Champions League. They got off to a poor start. He binned him, and then they've never recovered. You know, they're going through managers, you know, like those assaults, and they've got to stick with somebody at some point. I've signed so many players. It must be, I mean, try to get a team spirit when you've got 40 players. There must be guys in, there must be like two changing rooms. You know, how do you keep all the players happy? How do you get a training set up where everybody's involved? So, they need to get a settled team on the pitch and they need to get a settled manager, Chelsea, or else it's not going to get any better for them.
Definitely not. Scottish Premiership at the moment, Motherwell have pulled a goal back, Tam. This is a real ding-dong battle here between Motherwell and Ross County. Now Motherwell 2, Ross County 3.
Yeah, they're battling away. I think that obviously time's running out for them. I think Ross County should see the game out. But you know, they're battling away. But I think, you know, 3-1 down, I think the game's done. But it would be a remarkable recovery to get in and out the game. But you would expect Ross County just to see the game out now. I
think the score of the scoreline of the afternoon will undoubtedly be at Easter Road. If Hibs can get a point off Celtic, that's good going for Nick Montgomery. It'll fill him with confidence, especially after last week.
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't think they've had a clean sheet under Nick Montgomery. I think that 2 goals against Hearts, you know, the week before, then 4 goals at Rangers, and then to keep a clean sheet at home to Celtic. You know, when their defence and their goalkeepers under a bit of criticism, I criticised the defenders and the goalkeeper during the week. I didn't think they were good enough for where Hibs need to go, and then they go and keep a clean sheet against Celtic. So, shows you what I know. But no, that would be an incredible result for Hibs to get a point and get a clean sheet against a Celtic team that very, very rarely fails to score a goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Livingston 0, Dundee 2. Livingston down to 10 men. Motherwell 2, Ross County 3. St Mirren 4, St Johnstone 0. That's a hammering sometimes.
Kills my 3-0.
Well, hat-trick. Mandarin scores a hat-trick in the 90th minute there. And that, for me...
Steve McLean will be gone, Peter.
Yeah.
Aye. I think that's him. I think that when you look at that result and you combine it with second bottom and third bottom both going to win the game, it looks at it, I think they've got to say that's enough.
Yeah, I think that's there are usually some goals and results that
you just don't see them. You can't see them whether they get a result for Peter.
The amount of times you and I have been sitting here, Tam, and someone has got a really bad result off the back of a run of bad results, and you think that's the straw that breaks the camel's back.
I think that's it for Stephen McLean.
Yeah, okay. We'll wait to see if the board are indeed resolute in their thinking, as Tam has just mentioned there, or indeed is there more time for Stephen McLean to try and turn this round. Certainly on the evidence of what we're watching at the moment, they've only got 4 points. Can't buy a win, can't buy a goal anywhere because, quite simply, Chris Kane, is he going to threaten defences? Of course, the big man puts in a shift, but it hasn't been prolific. Stevie May, almost certainly, I think a lot of people looking and thinking maybe Stevie's best years now behind him. Nicky Clark coming on as a substitute as well, hasn't been able to turn the game in their fortune, in their favour. So it's 4-0 down, it's a hammering, and I think you cannot hide the fact that Stephen Robinson has got them going great guns there, and they are in the top 3 on merit.
Yeah, they are, and they've been pretty consistent under Stephen Robinson, and their home record in particular. Obviously, the blip this season was the game against Rangers, which, you know, the boys straight handballs it, and it's a penalty and a goal straight away. The game's done. But apart from that, Peter, I don't think they've let themselves down in any game. They've been competitive in every other game this season. But of course, they were only team. I think he beat, you know, Angie's team last season at St Mirren Park 2-0. So, listen, he's got some big results. He's beaten Rangers as well. So, I think they're where they are in merit. And as I said, there's a real chance for them to put points on the board with Hibs, a new manager, Hearts struggling, and Aberdeen in Europe. There's a chance for them to put a bit of daylight between themselves and maybe 4th.
Give us your thoughts on it all, because as it unfolds here, it's certainly looking as if it's a positive day for St Mirren and certainly for Ross County. You'll hope they can hold on in the injury time now to that 3-2 advantage against Motherwell. Dundee, good away win against Livingston, and the 10 men of Livingston. Montano has been sent off. Livingston down to 10 men. Dundee, 2 goals, looking as if they are online for 3 points. But what about at Easter Road? Hibs 0, Celtic 0. Patrick Mullen didn't tell us about anything great in that first 45 minutes. Will he have a different story? Will it be a story of really resolute defending from Hibernian? It would be painful now, Tam, if they were to lose any goal in the last few minutes.
Yeah, and this is when Celtic will be pouring bodies forward. You know, they know they've got to win the game. Hibs will be, I think, quite content to get a point. But this is where Celtic keep going. They keep going to death, whether there's 4 minutes added, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, they keep going to the very end. And this is where you've got to be completely concentrated as a Hibs player and not concede a goal.
And as I mentioned to you, Tam, young Rory Whittaker, Dylan Levitt and Adam Lafondra on the pitch. So there's a young man who's getting his chance. And true to his word, Nick Montgomery said he would be looking at the academy.
Yeah, and it's a huge part of any club, is the academy. Obviously I was part of a generation where Scott Brown came through, Kevin Thompson, Gary O'Connor, Derek Riordan, the golden generation at Hibs, where it generated a lot of money. Stephen Fletcher, Stephen Whittaker, and it generated a lot of money for Hibs, and that's not been quite the same since then. Ryan Porteous, off the top of my head, is maybe the only one that I can think of over the last 10 years that's come through and they've got a big fee for. So
Nisbet?
No, and signed Nisbet from Dunfermline. No, so they need to start getting more players in, getting them through the ranks and giving them opportunities, because Lee Johnson, for me, was always looking down to England, looking for players for Man City and looking for players for England and loan young players. Whereas hopefully he can look here and say, listen, we've got players on our own doorstep coming through that we can give opportunities to.
Yeah, absolutely. We're now into injury time in that match, and it looks as if there's been an equaliser. Motherwell have managed to get themselves back in to snatch the point. 3-3, Tam. What an equaliser for Motherwell.
I can't believe it. 3-1 up, Malky Mackay will be going daft. You know, they've conceded 2 goals in the last couple of minutes to throw away 2 points. Fair play to Motherwell for keeping going, and they've got that goal at the very, very end. It's actually a young player who scored the goal, Luca Ross, who I know has come on and scored the goal. So that's a disaster for Ross County. They would be counting 3 points, but fair play to Motherwell for keeping going right to death, and look as if they've pulled an unlikely point out of the fire. Yeah,
I mean, that is absolutely incredible. It looked as if they were dead and buried, especially when it went to 3-1, but somehow they managed to come back in there and get that equalising goal. So it looks as if there's going to be a share of the spoils. So, did I predict a draw there, or did I predict Motherwell? I think I'd gone for Motherwell in that one.
As well. I tell you what, the Celtic, nobody would have predicted a draw in the Celtic game or Dundee winning.
Yeah.
Or probably a draw in that game.
Yeah, full time.
Not many points.
Full time in Paisley, 4-0 to St Mirren. That is a wonderful result for the Saints, and I think if you're talking about the negative aspect of, or the implications for the St Johnstone manager, the positive is the performance of Stephen Robinson's Saints side. An emphatic win there against St Johnstone, albeit, of course, they haven't really been on form. Bacchus, Mandarin with a double, and Kilty with the goal in the 90th minute.
Yep, great result. Unfortunately for me, I went for 3-0, so I've missed out on an extra couple of points. But I think that in terms of St Mirren this season, they've been the most consistent team outside the Old Firm. I think they've been able to put results together. They've been strong at home. They've nicked points away from home, and they're in a really, really strong place at the minute. You know, they're sitting with 18 points in level with Rangers, and if you're a St Mirren fan, you're dreaming of Europe. They just missed out on it last season, I think. You just missed out in Europe, and my brother-in-law's a St Mirren fan. I know a lot of St Mirren fans actually, and they're desperate to get into Europe, get a wee away trip somewhere, and if they can do that, then it'll be a great season for them. Championship
in Scotland, Ayr United 0, Greenock Morton 1, Inverness 1, Airdrieonians 0, and Wraith Rovers 1, Dunfermline 0. Looks as if that could be the 3 points for the home side.
Brilliant for Ian Murray. You know, he's doing really, really well at Wraith Rovers. There's another young manager that's doing well. He's been there for a wee while now, and he's finally got a team that he wants and he believes in. And they look as if they're the only team capable in the Championship of giving Dundee United a run for their money.
League 1, Edinburgh City 3, Annan Athletic 2, Falkirk 3, Alloa 0, Kelty Hearts 1, Stirling Albion 0, and Queen of the South 0, Cove Rangers 1, which would be a really good away win there, and it is indeed full time right across all those matches. Full time between Inverness and Airdrieonians, 1-0 there. We're just waiting for the full time from Wraith Rovers against Inferno. Looks as if it could be that 1-goal advantage, and full time Morton defeating Ayr United. But in the Scottish Premiership, right at the death here, it's 0-0 between Hibs and Celtic. It's 2-0 to Dundee, and in the dying seconds of the match at Livingston, it's Livingston 0, Dundee 2. Good win for Tony Docherty, but 3-3, 6 goals on offer at Fir Park today. Motherwell 3, Ross County 3. Fabulous performance from Motherwell to come back from 3-1 down in that match, and I think Stuart Kettlewell will be well happy with what he's witnessed. And it's full time Livingston 0, Dundee 2, and full time St Mirren 4, St Johnstone 0. So that's the full time scores from those matches. Elsewhere, a dismal day. We're talking about teams that are in danger of being cut off, and well cut off. Sheffield United absolutely hammered by Arsenal today, 5-0, and Sheffield United have got 1 point, and still they're in touching distance of Burnley and Luton, but those two with Bournemouth are favourites to go down.
Yeah, and it's always the same, Peter. Unless a team comes up and spends a lot of money, then they're going to struggle. Sheffield United have hardly spent a penny. Luton are just happy to be there, I think. And Burnley have not spent any money either. So it's always going to be difficult for those teams to come up and compete. But Heckingbottom, the ex-Hibs manager, he might be getting another wee P45 and another payoff shortly.
0-0 at Easter Road. Tam, give us your thoughts. Hibs 0, Celtic 0.
Didn't see it coming, to be honest, Peter. I thought that I'd fancied, the way both teams have been playing recently. I didn't see Hibs keeping a clean sheet, to be honest. They went 4-4-2. I expected an open game with plenty of goals. Didn't get that either. But I think it's great for Nick Montgomery because he stuck to his guns. He could have easily have went 4-5-1 after getting pumped last week against Rangers. He stuck to his beliefs, and he's went against a top quality Celtic team, and he shut them out. I think he's maybe got Celtic at a good time, obviously on the back of a massive effort to put in during the week. But I'm not going to make any excuses for Celtic. Celtic would expect it to go and win the game. So for Hibs, get a clean sheet and to hold the champions at home to a point is a very, very positive result.
Positive result, and it really opens it up for Rangers against Hearts. That's a real incentive for Rangers to reduce the gap at the top of the table to only 5.
Yeah, it is, and that gives them a boost. They've had a good week. Rangers, beating Hibs 4-0 last week, getting a good point, away from home, and then if they can go and beat Hearts, it's been a great start for Clermont. They've got a point in Europe, and they're 2 points closer to Celtic. So we just have to wait and see how they got on against Hearts tomorrow. But it must give everybody at Rangers a lift to see Celtic dropping points.
Yeah, I think it's a huge lift, by the way. On the evidence of the first half of that match, when we were watching, Tam, it was chances few and far between. In fact, just one, and that was really almost created by Hibs themselves. David Marshall with a poor pass that the Celtic front line pounced on, but couldn't actually convert it into a goal. Second half, again, we're about to hear from Patrick Mullen. It won't be too far away from Patrick giving us his assessment of the overall 45 minutes of the second half. And a good point for Nick Montgomery. What do you make of it all? It's on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Not forgetting, of course, we're live across Facebook and Twitter as well. So there's many areas and platforms for you to offer your opinion on this day when really Celtic have slipped up. Rangers with a chance to capitalise against Hearts. We'll hear from Philippe Clement shortly, and also hear from Nicky Devlin as Aberdeen after their midweek disappointment in that game against PAOK. They lost by 3-2 with a heartbreaking goal right at the death from the penalty spot. But they're taking on Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, and I think it's going to be an indication of whether they can go from European football through to domestic issues on a Sunday and produce something against Derek McInnes's Kilmarnock. We'll hear from them shortly. But at this moment, the key results in the Scottish Premiership. If you have just joined us, it's Hibs 0, Celtic 0, Livingston 0, Dundee 2, Motherwell 3, Ross County 3, and St Mirren 4, St Johnstone 0. The main headlines, great point for Nick Montgomery as Hibs hold Celtic to a draw. But elsewhere, is this the end of the road for Stephen McLean at St Johnstone? It's a 4-0 hammering at the hands of St Mirren.
Yeah, I think it is, Peter. I think when you look at the league table now, it's not just the league, as I said earlier, it's the League Cup campaign. I think Stirling Albion up there and beat them 4-0 in the League Cup as well. So it's been a dreadful start to the season. I don't see it getting any better. I don't see that pool of players turning it around from now until January. And I think that maybe a fresh face, a fresh voice is required at St Johnstone, because for them to be bottom of the league with 4 points after 9 games and having scored 3 goals is miles off, you know, what the St Johnstone fans would be expecting this season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge blow for St Johnstone, who just can't get it. Full time in the English Premier League, Arsenal 5, Sheffield United 0. Another man, Tam's in this mood today for just handing P45s out willy-nilly. Paul Heckingbottom.
He'll be at the door as well, but he'll get a nice wee cheque for leaving.
Yep, absolutely. And as you can tell, Tam well used to getting cheques for failure, and that's why he's talking from experience. But I'm only winding you up. Anyway, harsh but fair. Will St Johnstone decide enough is enough and look for someone to take them in a different direction? It's really difficult because, as I said, there was a possibility of a new consortium coming in, Tam, and that I think it needs a fresh start throughout the whole club.
Well, if you're a consortium and you're looking to come in, you're looking at the league table and you're thinking, do I want to put my money into that team? It looks as if they're going to get relegated.
Yeah.
You maybe get it for cheaper, but then you're taking a risk. Because if St Johnstone go down, I don't think it's like a Hibs or a Hearts or a Dundee United going down. St Johnstone have not got the financial bulk and the support to come straight back up. You know, they would. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So they're in a real predicament when you look at what 3 years ago, they winning the League Cup and the Scottish Cup to see, and it's been coming, Peter, because the previous season 2 years ago they won the playoff against Inverness, and then last season they get out of it by the skin of their teeth. I thought some of the games they were lucky to get points out of, but then this season it's caught up with them and it's been coming, and if you're a St Johnstone fan you're probably seen it coming, because they've been down there over the last 2 seasons fighting for their lives, and this season they've not got away with it, and they look doomed at the minute. They look miles away from getting out of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to hear from Patrick Mullen at Easter Road on the performance of Hibs in the second half. Was it about Hibs really taking command and battling away against a Celtic side which has far more resources, certainly from the bench? Early on it was Brendan Rodgers who utilised his bench more than Nick Montgomery's, but the players who come on couldn't make a difference for Celtic, couldn't get that all-important goal. Elsewhere, it was a game at Fir Park that I think, if you were there as a fan, you certainly thought Motherwell were going to succumb to Ross County, who were 3-1 up at one point, but they battled back and salvaged a point in that match, which is absolutely fantastic for Motherwell. 3-3, 6 goals, not bad when you pay your money and you get a game like that.
Yeah, Tam Cowan would be happy if he's at the game.
Yeah.
He'd have loved that. And 2-0 down, 3-1 down with 5 minutes to go. Great courage and great determination, great bottle. You know, never to give in from Motherwell. We didn't see it coming, getting a point out of the game, but they've came back and got a point, and that could be a big point because it stops the rot of the defeats that they've been suffering. Yeah, and we always like to keep you up to date with some of the big games across the globe that everybody likes to watch. And El Clasico at the moment heading towards the final stages. Barcelona 1, Real Madrid 1. Jude Bellingham has just scored again in the 90th minute to win it for Real Madrid. Barcelona 1, Real Madrid 2, Bellingham again. I mean, if you're in a situation where you are looking at a kid at 20, who's suddenly at Real Madrid scoring winners in El Clasico, he could be one of those players that comes along in a generation that just sets the heather on fire. Yeah, he's absolutely world class. You've seen him at Hampden. You know, he's head and shoulders the best player on the pitch, and there was some real talent on that pitch. And if you're an England fan, you're looking at the Euros next season. You're looking at him, Harry Kane, Saka, Grealish, Foden. You know, Declan Rice in the middle of the park. You know, if England could find a centre half somewhere of ilk that could maybe play beside Stones and not Harry Maguire, then they would be a very, very difficult team to beat. But I still think they're a centre half away for winning it.
Yeah.
But midfield to front, England, I think they're as good as anyone. Bellingham playing behind Harry Kane. It's mouth-watering if you're an England fan.
Frightening for other defences,
yeah.
but I still think that, as you say, Tam, there's a chink in the armour, certainly at the back end of it, where I think a lot of countries with some prolific players of their own will look at it and say they can be got at. That's an absolute certainty when you look at the back end for them. Quite a lot of people are looking at it, and of course, thank you to so many people who like giving us pelters across the social media. It's always good, and what a result. A draw is a great result and a clean sheet, says Alan Ross. Listen, I think Hibs have got to take all the plaudits from that game against Celtic. 0-0 is no mean feat, and I think a lot of people at Easter Road, it's been a false dawn over the last couple of managers. Is that fair? I mean, Lee Johnson didn't fill us with any great confidence. I don't think Sean Maloney was given enough time, and certainly not the backing. And Jack Ross as well, it didn't quite work out for him either.
Yeah, and listen, Hibs need to stick with a manager at some point, and hopefully they'll stick with Nick Montgomery. But he needs to get results, obviously, as well, on top of that. But, great result. Celtic have been imperious this season. I think they've only dropped 2 points at the home draw to St Johnstone. I think Hibs have got them a good time, to be honest. I think that game during the week, the euphoria of that game, the excitement, the amount of work that Celtic put in, there must have been a few heavy legs today in that game at Easter Road. But I don't want to take anything away from Hibs. I think that for Hibs to get a point against Celtic, it's not happened very often. And you take it and you get it. I didn't see Hibs keeping a clean sheet. I think if you look at the way they defended last week at Ibrox, it was poor. Rangers should have scored 6 or 7. There's obviously been a lot of work done this week on the training ground, Peter, in terms of defensively off the ball, and getting in behind the ball and being harder to break down than they were last week at Ibrox. And that's work today. And Hibs usually scoring games, particularly at home. But if you'd have offered Hibs and the Hibs supporters a draw before the game, then I think every one of them would have said yes, thank you, we'll take it.
Yeah, I think
you've seen how good Celtic were last week against Hearts as well.
Yeah, I'd be reluctant actually, especially on the evidence. I mean, on the evidence of that first 45 minutes against Atletico Madrid, it's as good as I've seen Celtic play in Europe since the last game against Real Madrid under Ange Postecoglou. They were fantastic. But as far as overall, I think sometimes when you get a situation where the opposition produces a great result against Celtic or Rangers, they fail to get the plaudits they deserve, and I think he deserves great credit. I'm glad you pointed it out there, because to get a 0-0 against them, regardless of the fact that Celtic have been involved in European football, they've got big enough squads to handle it. So I don't think you can take anything away from what he's achieved there with them. He's obviously done his homework, as you said, and they've got that win. We'll hear from Patrick Mullen on the evidence of the 90 minutes and what he thought about it all. Adam Binney's been watching Dundee get 3 points against Livingston.
Brilliant result from Old Club. As I said, I spoke to Stuart Taylor during the week there. He said it's been coming. They're creating chances. They're putting lots of balls into the box, lots of opportunities, lots of shots at goal. It's not breaking for them at the minute. I think Shaughnessy's a centre half. I think he's a defender. He scored the 2 goals today, so maybe put him up front. But you need goals from all over the park. But they have been struggling with their strikers to score goals. But their centre halves popped up today with 2 goals, and they've kept a clean sheet. So listen, Dundee move up to 4th place. I think Tony Docherty's doing a good job there. He's doing a steady job. And listen, the ultimate goal for Dundee this season is to stay in the division. And you said 37 points. If they can get half of that, coming up to Christmas and over the Christmas period, then they'll be pretty confident of getting that total and staying in the division. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we always want to see the big clubs getting the derbies. Dundee Derby could return next season, because Dundee United dismantled Arbroath by 6-0 last night. Louis Moult getting a double, and of course, over and above that, Tony Watt chipped in with a goal. But Louis Moult's get 8 goals for the season for United, and as Tam said, just a class above some of the defences he's coming up against. But you still have to beat them, still have to score the goals, and Dundee United are scoring goals and are out in front at the moment. But certainly they don't have that 7-point advantage that they did at the start of the day, because Raith Rovers edged it in the Fife Derby. Yeah, brilliant for Raith. Ian Murray's doing a great job there, ex-teammate of mine at Hibs. And they're just staying on the coattails. I think they're, as you said, 4 points behind by a game in hand. They drew with Dundee United a couple of weeks ago at home, so they look as if they're the only club in that division that's going to actually give Dundee United a wee run for their money. But you would still expect, with the strength and depth and the financial gap between Dundee United and Raith, that that Dundee United will win the league. But I think it's great to see Raith Rovers doing well and being up there. It's been a long time since they were in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And even if they can get in the playoffs, then you never know. But they're certainly a club on the up. Raith Rovers are doing a lot of things right now.
Yeah, and up there at the Tulloch Stadium, when the Inverness players walk into the ground, it's usually the manager that's asked for the most photographs these days, because Big Duncan has got another win in that 1-0 scoreline against the Adrionians.
Yep, great result for him. He's doing okay since he came in. Obviously won the first game against Arbroath. David Wallaceman, I think, is a good signing. They signed Chile and Sheridan as well, from Dundee. So
he's about 104 now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a bit clubs for me. That's saying something. But two good players, two experienced players. Wallaceman and Sheridan, and that might maybe add a wee bit of something to Inverness that they've been missing. And
he's got a similar pattern actually to yourself, because he has. I think did he not play in Bulgaria at one point?
In Bulgaria, I think he played in Cyprus.
He's a real journeyman, hasn't he?
He's played in Poland. I think he's played everywhere. But he'll have a few stories to tell as well. But no, listen, I think he's obviously. I think he'd done his ACL last season at Dundee.
Yeah.
I think he was just training with Dundee this season. He was not getting a contract, but he was just keeping him fit, and he was right to Inverness. So him and Wallaceman, I think, will be good signings for him. Yeah,
let's find out what happened there with Livingston down to 10 men against Dundee. It was Dundee who triumphed in the end. Adam Binney watched it.
Full time at the Tony Macaroni Arena. It has finished Livingston 0, Dundee 2, and it's a victory inspired by an unlikely hero in captain and defender Joe Shaughnessy, who netted twice in just 3 minutes inside the final 8 minutes to secure all 3 points for the visitors this afternoon, as they extend their unbeaten run in the Scottish Premiership to 4 matches and even lift themselves to 4th in the Scottish Premiership table. But they were made to sweat for it. They thought they'd taken the lead in the 57th minute, just 8 minutes after the restart, when Amadou Bakayoko found the bottom corner. His goal was ruled out for an offside infringement, but after that Livingston were reduced to 10 men in the 70th minute when Christian Montano was shown a red card for a stamp on Malachi Boateng. At this point Livingston were just trying to hang on, and that they could not, as Dundee, with 2 set piece opportunities, Joe Shaughnessy was clinical to net a brace inside that final 8 minutes and lift Dundee into the European places for the first time this season. All over in West Lothian it is finished. Livingston 0, Dundee 2.
That's great, isn't it? See, when you hear somebody saying they're now into the European spots, but it's so ridiculous from about 4th position down to 11th.
Yeah, it is, but they are where they are. They're where they are in merit. And 4th place, the Dundee fans will be digging out the passports as we speak, even though there's 26 games left.
Listen, I have to say, you mentioned that there, but there was a period of time, and some older journalists than myself, and I look towards Hugh MacDonald, who often sits there on the couch on a journalist programme, Tam. He can tell you about great Dundee sides, which, again, with Charlie Cook, Alan Golzine, were able to actually...
A semi-final of the European Cup?
Semi-final European Cup, and also won the league. Right. So they were a great side, and of course, Golzine was a fabulous player who eventually went on to have a brilliant career with Tottenham Hotspur. But that's when they had a right good team. And of course, Dundee have had good teams in the past as well. Some teams that they've assembled cost an absolute fortune and then sent them over the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, that's right. Nimzadze, Kanija, Caballero. That's right. They were right good. They got to a final against Rangers, I think, and lost 1-0 with Jim Duffy.
Yeah. One of our producers has said McManus. I think he's ripping the back end out of it now. But you enjoyed your time there. How many years were you there? 2?
I was there for 2 seasons. First season relegated. Second season, my favourites to come back up didn't. And then I left and went to Falkirk. Big Yogi signed me for Falkirk. Yeah,
absolutely. And how did Motherwell get on that period when you could have signed for them? I think they were flying high.
They were flying high.
Yeah, you could. So your career could have been so different.
It was a bad move going to Dundee. No offence to Dundee, but I should have went for Motherwell, and Terry Butcher will never let me forget it.
Yeah, absolutely. You could have walked around Lanarkshire as the top man.
Could have.
Yep.
Could have. That could have been me. Helicopter Sunday, you commentating. Scott McDonald. That's only me. Bang, goal.
Was it that year?
I think it was.
Was it? I cannot believe you didn't go to Motherwell.
I know. And,
yeah.
Instead of me sitting greeting into my cheque that I got for Dundee.
Well, exactly. Which paid for some of the naff furniture that we could see during COVID when you were sitting there in front of your camera. But no, I mean, when you think about great games, and the excitement of the Scottish Premiership at times, the helicopter's changing direction will actually, it's one of those ones that stays with you forever, because that's what you want as a commentator, Tam. That's what you want towards the end of a season.
It's a long time since that's happened now. Celtic have romped the league, but
Yeah.
that's, even that one, and then the other one where it came down to it was a shootout. Was it Rangers battered Dunfermline at home and Celtic beat
6-1. Yeah.
And it went in goal difference again that time. That was it too.
Celtic actually missed a penalty down at Rugby Park. I think they won 4-1.
Yeah, Big Sutton
4-0.
threw dummies at the pram and said Dunfermline lied down.
Yeah, he was. I think he decided that he was far enough away from anybody having a go at him. But yeah, you want that. You want close title finishes. You actually want. Not only, I mean, you can't have everything in life, but you want a close title finish. You maybe want a third or fourth team that are strong, and you definitely want European football for more than just the big two. You want other clubs involved to share the money, and the rewards next season in European football is going to be massive, Tam.
Yeah, particularly Champions League, Peter. You mentioned it yesterday. You know, I think it's an 8-team league now, and it's double the money.
60 million.
It's double the money they're getting this year. So. Listen, if Rangers could somehow get that money, it would bring them so much closer to Celtic in terms of finances. But Celtic, although they've dropped 2 points today, they are still heavy favourites to win the league. Yeah,
well, Rangers have got a real incentive to reduce the gap at the top of the table when they take on Hearts at Ibrox tomorrow. We'll hear now from the Rangers manager Philippe Clement, who's well aware of one of the Hearts players and how they're going to play.
They have a few interesting players. Their striker played in Belgium. I know him from before also. He played in my old team where I started playing football. And he's doing really well. So it's going to be a game that we want to be dominant, that they're going to play transition game, that they're going to count on set pieces. So we need to be on top of our game with and without the ball.
I think there's a lot of positives around Rangers at the moment because, okay, Sparta Prague may well have had a lot of chances, and Rangers have to thank Jack Butland for the performance. He made some really, really good saves. But there's a structure, there seems to be a new energy about them, and there's an opportunity to really get the fans behind them with a win that closes the gap, because I don't think too many people were thinking there was going to be a slip-up from Celtic today.
No, they weren't. I think a lot of Rangers fans would have expected Celtic just to win the game today and keep that gap, but you know, it could be, as I said earlier, it could be a very, very good week for Rangers. You know, new manager coming in, great start at Ibrox, you know, 4-0, good point away from home, as you said. Rode their luck at times, but towards the end of the game, you know, came on strong, could have nicked it. And if they go and beat Hearts tomorrow, then the gap's 5 points. So, all in all, it'll be a great week for Rangers, and particularly weeks before that, when they were dropping points left, right and centre under Michael Beale. You know, for them to still be in him for a wee sniff and close that gap down to 5 points would be huge for the Rangers support.
Yeah, what about the Jambos? Because Stephen Naismith, he knows results are everything. It's just win games. People can talk about the style he wants Hearts to play, but the most important thing is just win games to try and take the heat off him at the moment.
It is at Hibs and Hearts, Peter. Obviously played at Hibs. It's the same at Hearts. You know, you're under pressure every week to win games. And if you're not winning games, the fans will let you know. Hearts will regard themselves as a third force. Hibs regard themselves as a third force. So do Aberdeen. So they expect to be in that third place. They expect to be going to Celtic Rangers and giving them a game, home and away. So it's not going to be acceptable, that performance last week at Tynecastle, where Celtic came and run riot. You know, Hearts never laid a glove on them in terms of physicality as well. You know, not only did Celtic play them off the park in football, you know, they were too strong for them. And that never happens to a Hearts team at Tynecastle. So there's a few questions getting asked about Stephen Naismith at the minute. So he needs a positive performance and he needs a result. And I don't really see it, but I've never seen Hibs getting a point today, so you never know. But Hearts will need to go there, defend well, take their opportunities and try and get a result. Because if Hearts get beat again, then the pressure just increases on the manager. Yeah,
I mean, they should be top six without any problems whatsoever.
Absolutely, they will be.
Well, why is there pressure on them then?
Because they want to be third, Peter, and they're miles off third at the minute. They've not put a consistent run of form together. And as I said, they want to be competing against Celtic Rangers, and they never competed against Celtic last week at Tynecastle. It was embarrassing at times. You know, Celtic just, you know, put their foot in the ball. There wasn't a tackle put in by Hearts or anything. It was an easy victory, and the Hearts fans are not going to stand for that at Tynecastle. So they've got to go to Ibrox, get a reaction from them, and go and put in a much better performance against Rangers.
Yeah, can they do it? Will Hearts produce something at Ibrox? When they do, it's all too rare. I mean, you struggle to think of Hearts victories at Ibrox down through the years.
Celtic, there's a long time since I've got a result anywhere.
Yeah, can they do it at Ibrox tomorrow? Give us your view on that. And what about the other match, Kilmarnock against Aberdeen? Well, first and foremost, here's Derek McInnes, the Killie boss, looking ahead to that match against the Dons. And we'll come back to that in just a minute, because Derek McInnes clearly is in a situation where he'll be looking to try and get them up in that top half of the table and a well away from what was happening last season, which again, when you look at his side, they were struggling for a period, and then slowly but surely they started to get a few results that got them away from it.
Yeah, and I think that similar to Celtic today, I think that Derek McInnes will be thinking it's a good time to get Aberdeen. They've had a tough game during the week. They've not had a lot of time to recover. The disappointment is not going to go away quickly. I think from 2-0 up, I think they're going to win the game. I think Aberdeen would have got 500 grand by a win as well. You know, that's snatched away that finance as well. So I think for Derek McInnes, you're expecting a leggy Aberdeen to come down, but you've got to go out straight out the traps and get after them and get into them and about them and put Aberdeen under pressure. Because if Aberdeen get time to settle into the game and grow into the game, then you would expect them to go and win. But if Kilmarnock can start fast and get the first goal, then you know they've every opportunity to win the game.
What about the story of that match at Easter Road? A credible draw for Nick Montgomery's side. Patrick Mullen was there.
Full time here at Easter Road, and it's finished. Hibernia 0, Celtic 0. It is Nick Montgomery's side that have held on for a point against the league leaders this afternoon. Celtic, well, it was uneventful for the first 75 minutes of this one, but the floodlights went on and Celtic decided to push on. They had chances galore in the final 15 minutes. Mikey Johnson went close, his first appearance for the club since March of 2022, but it was James Forrest that went the closest when a David Turnbull corner was whipped into the box, and he was there at the back post, but he couldn't keep it underneath the bar. Nick Montgomery said yesterday in his press conference that he wanted his side to concentrate from minute 1 until minute 95. Well, today it was 93 minutes, and it is fair to say they concentrated throughout. A full-time result here at Easter Road. It's finished Hibernia 0, Celtic 0.
Well, a bit of second half, but in the end, despite the fact they may well have rode their luck, they got the point, and I think they deserve full credit, Hibs, because people will focus on the deficiencies with Celtic coming back off the European game, but Hibs get the point and they deserve full credit for it.
Yeah, and they've obviously defended well. Peter, I've never seen the second half, but first half they defended well, they were solid. When they lost the ball, they get back into shape. Something clearly been worked on this week in training by the manager. He'd have been very disappointed with the performance and the result last week at Rangers. So they've got to get back to basics on the training ground, and they've managed to get a great point, because Celtic don't drop many points, as we've seen this season and previous seasons. You know, usually they just go and win the game second half. So for Hibs, a great point and something to build on for the manager. Yeah, 4 games in the Scottish Premiership today, 2 tomorrow. It finished 0-0 at Easter Road, Livingston 0, Dundee 2, Motherwell 3, Ross County 3, and in the Battle of the Saints, St Mirren 4, St Johnstone 0, and one wonders whether that will signal the end of Stephen McLean's reign at St Johnstone. They are looking as if they are going to be cut adrift at the bottom end of the Scottish Premiership. Give us your thoughts on that. Nobody likes to see a manager lose his job, but there is a point when a boardroom starts to get a little bit nervous when they realise that no matter what they do, they are too far adrift to try and even get a playoff place. And certainly St Johnstone's board will be looking long and hard at the predicament they find themselves in at the moment, with only 4 points and goals hard to come by. Tomorrow it's Rangers against Hearts and Kilmarnock against Aberdeen, and here is the Killie boss, Derek McInnes.
I'd always say you get in 2 rounds of fixtures, and normally around about January you've got an idea of who's fighting for titles, who's fighting for Europe, who's fighting for top 6 and who's fighting relegation. But I do think that this season it's going to be particularly tight, because I think there's none between a lot of the teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's right. I mean, he's old enough in the head to realise that, quite simply, you know, you can't judge any team, because I think you get to that second period going into the third quarter of everybody's played, you then know exactly the strengths and weaknesses, and then managers get a chance to get that January transfer window. Yeah, and listen, you can never rest in your laurels in the Premier League. I think as a club like Kilmarnock, you've got to keep pushing every week. They got off to a great start at the start of the season, you know, beating Celtic and Rangers.
and then he went on a very, very poor run of form. So I don't know if maybe expected to start winning games just because he beat Celtic and Rangers, maybe a bit of complacency set in, I don't know, but you've got to be at it every week in this league to win games. They got a great result last week against Livingston, great 3 points, and they'll be looking for the same against Aberdeen. But you're right, you've just got to keep plodding away, keep putting points on the board, and then in January, maybe you've got a wee bit of budget to go and maybe bring a bit of extra quality. And he's got Gary Mackay-Steven there, who's been training with him. Maybe he's the one that can maybe come in and give them a wee bit of magic, but it'll all depend on how much money he's got in the pot.
Yeah, Aberdeen will be reeling from that midweek defeat to PAOK in the Europa League. It was painful for them. Europa Conference, I beg your pardon. It was painful for Aberdeen. Looked as if they were odds on to get their first points, full points, 3 points in that group, but it just didn't materialise. And in the end, PAOK Salonika came back to win it with that late penalty. Aberdeen, despite all the hype and despite all the plaudits that have come their way at times under Barry Robson, that's a painful one. They'll be looking out to see what they can do in the Premiership. Can they get 3 points at Rugby Park? Well, are they a good team? Nicky Devlin says his teammates and himself, they have to prove that.
Listen, we feel like we are a good side, but good sides don't capitulate the way we done. They stay at it. They kind of, worst case scenario, you come away and you draw the game at worst. But as I said, ultimately we never done that. As you said, they've got good players, good threats. Kind of going forward, they're really good. They showed that at times tonight. But I felt for the most part we dealt with it. But yeah, the last 20 minutes were just really poor from our point of view.
Yeah, and I think you can sometimes treat people being positive about you and people being negative about you with the same disdain. You've got to try and keep a level head. You've got to show some consistency. I can't work it out with Aberdeen.
Yeah, they seem to be up and down. I think they're 5 games unbeaten in the league, but in the Europe they should have more points on the board, Peter. There's no doubt about that. They should have beat the Finnish team. I think Duke went through in the last minute, should have scored. They should have won that game, and there's no way they should have lost the game the other night. They should have got at least a point, as Nicky said there. So I think I said similar last season with Hearts. I think it's difficult playing Thursday at the minute. I think they've not got the squad to do that, even though they spent in the summer, they spent money and improved the squad. I think once I don't think Aberdeen are going to get out of the group now. I think once they depart that, and over the Christmas period and into January, February, I think that you'll see an Aberdeen team that can start to put points on the board and get up the table. But they're struggling now to play Thursday, Sunday, because they're playing high quality opposition as well.
Yeah, and of course, Aberdeen with just 2 wins from 9. It's exactly what Tam and I have been talking about. You're trying to see some kind of run of form from any team out with Celtic and Rangers, but certainly one team with a lot of form is St Mirren. They were 4-0 winners today against St Johnstone, and I think Stephen Robinson will be well happy. We'll hopefully hear from him before we say goodbye to you at 6 o'clock. But it's an afternoon where Nick Montgomery, certainly the result of the day, getting a 0-0 against Celtic, he deserves praise for that, and of course all the team for staying concentrated. He mentioned it in the press conference yesterday, and I think his players have been able to stand up to what Celtic have thrown at them today and get a hard-fought 0-0, and they will get great credit for that. Dundee, a good 2-0 win over Livingston. And of course, Joe Shaughnessy, certainly not someone you would associate with scoring goals, but he bagged a double today to see off Livingston. And Motherwell against Ross County. Well, it looked as if Ross County were going to get all 3 points in an old Malky. Who would want to be in that dressing room after squandering 3 points and getting pegged back to 3-3?
Yeah, but a long journey back up the road, Peter, to Dingwall tonight, after being 2-0 up and 3-1 up. You do expect them to see the game out, but you've got to give credit to Motherwell. They never chucked it. 3-1, 5 minutes to go, you're thinking you're beat. They get that goal just to give them a wee sniff and added time, and they get the equaliser. So, no, you've got to give Motherwell credit, but Ross County, that's 2 points drop for them. If you're 2-0 up, 3-1 up away from home, particularly 3-1 up away from home with 5 minutes to go, 6 minutes to go, you should win the game.
Here's a question for you then. We're looking at it, we're saying to ourselves, okay, St Johnstone are cut off. They look as if they are the team that's going to be cut adrift unless something dramatic changes over the next few weeks. So who's your bet that you're looking at and saying, well, they're equally worryingly at the bottom end of the division and could be in trouble in the playoff place?
It's difficult at the minute to say, Peter. I still think Livingston. I think Livingston will struggle this season. I think they're struggling. That's a really poor result for them today. That's a team that's going to be running about it at the bottom, Dundee.
I've got St Johnstone down and Livingston in the playoff.
Yeah, I think Dundee will be okay. I think that they've got a lot of legs in the team, and I think they'll strengthen in the January window. I think they'll have money available. I don't think David Martindale will, unless he sells Joel Newbley, which he's been trying to do for 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult for Livingston. So for me, I think St Johnstone are gone. I think they're down, even this early. I think they're doomed, and I think Livingston, I probably agree with you.
And you think this is the day when St Johnstone will, obviously cut the cord with Stephen McLean?
We don't want to see anybody losing their jobs, particularly young managers, but it's unacceptable for them to have nine games and 4 points and scored 3 goals. I can't remember a team having that bad a season, start the season, a long time. And it's not just that, it was a League Cup campaign. Still an Albion up there and beat them 4-0. At home it was a shocker. So from the League Cup campaign into the league, it's not been good enough. If one standout result, which was a draw at Parkhead, 0-0. I don't know how that happened when you look at the other results. And I think he's running out of time. If they don't sack him now, he's running out of time. He needs to get a result. If it doesn't go tonight, he needs to get a result next week.
Yeah, listen, that's going to be a difficult one. Painful for St Johnstone, and again, it's always painful because there is that period when you're getting on the bus and you're wondering. I mean, I've witnessed the Jim Goodwin situation when he was at Aberdeen, that long walk at Easter Road. You remember the cameras picked up on him? It was painful seeing it.
Yeah, it's horrible because somebody just lost their job, and you never want to see anybody losing their job. But football's a results business. You need to win games as a manager. When you go into management, you know that if you don't win games, you're going to lose your job, and that's just a fact. And it doesn't matter if you're at the highest level or the lowest level, whatever level you're at, you're a manager. You need to win games and you need to be successful. And if you're not, the board will get someone else in. So that's just the law of the jungle. And it looks as if Stephen McLean, if he's not on his last life already, he maybe have one more next week, but I think he might go tonight.
Yeah, okay. Give us your thoughts on that. What do you think of Stephen McLean at St Johnstone, perilously close to the sack, or indeed someone who should be given more time and maybe an experienced person brought in alongside him to try and help him? Have they got the resources to do that? Have they got the resources in January to try and give, whether it's Stephen McLean or someone else, enough money to try and bring in some players that can alter their fortunes? They're at the bottom, they're cut off at the moment, but the other clubs are very, very tight between 11th and 4th in this league. A league, I have to say, which I'm not a big fan of, the 12-team league, but I know Neil Doncaster will be of the opinion with that entire board that financially it's working. And you only have to look at the payouts that the clubs received in the last couple of weeks. I mean, I know right now Neil Doncaster, rightly so, is singing from the high heavens about, per head of population, how popular Scottish football is. We love it.
Yeah, we do love it, Peter, and listen, I think that we could be doing more. Listen, the figures are good from Neil Doncaster's point of view. He's took a lot of criticism, particularly over the COVID period. And there was a lot of shenanigans, teams getting awarded trophies, teams getting relegated. He took a lot of flack, and he was hanging on to his job by a thread. So he's going to come out fighting. He's going to come out when things are good, and the finances are good, and he's going to come out and back himself. But I still think we could be doing more. We could be bringing more sponsorship and more money into the club, because you're right. There's no a country in Europe and the world that's bigger into football than us, and we've got to tap into that, and that means getting more money in, more sponsorship in, and giving clubs more money to try and compete with the big two.
And it always helps when you get a title race. Stuart Lang reckons title race back on after today.
Well, we have to wait and see tomorrow. If Rangers can capitalise on it and beat Hearts at home and cut the gap to 5, and if they do that, then I would agree with you. But I wouldn't think it's a foregone conclusion that Rangers would win tomorrow. They're favourites to win the game, but so were Celtic today. And for the first time probably this season, there's a bit of pressure on Rangers. Celtic have dropped points and they go, we can close the gap.
Yeah.
How do Rangers react to that? Can they go and close the gap?
Well, I always like to, obviously your own experience as well, and I always mention to all our journalists who work here at PLZ Soccer, don't let your eyes deceive you, and you only have to look to the experience that he has in abundance in Neil Lennon. And Neil Lennon reckons that, quite simply, Stevie Naismith's side, he doesn't see a structure, he doesn't see what they're trying to do. And certainly on the evidence of listening to Neil and how he's watched Hearts over the last couple of weeks, I don't see Hearts laying a glove on Rangers. I think this is a perfect chance for Philippe Clement to just basically say, listen, go out there, front of the fans, and do a job on Hearts, because I think Hearts are low in confidence and direction at the moment.
Yeah, there's no clear identity, Peter, with the way they're trying to play. I think when Stephen got the job on a caretaker basis, they had an identity. They were front foot football. They got plenty of crosses into the box. They were direct. They put teams under pressure. I don't see that since he's got the job. Maybe he's trying to keep doing that, but I don't see it. I didn't see it last week against Celtic. When you go to Tynecastle, you're expected to get bombarded with balls in behind, crosses, corners, long throws. Didn't see anything like that last week against Celtic. They never laid a glove on them. So, listen, he's got to go out tomorrow and find a formation and a system that's going to get a result, because, as I said, if he goes tomorrow and they get beat again, then there's going to be more pressure on him. And you're right, Rangers have got an opportunity to really close the gap on Celtic and close off a great week, a positive week for the club. And if Rangers got off to a good start, score early, you would only see one winner, but you never know. If Hearts score first, how do Rangers react? That's football, you can never predict it, but Hearts certainly for me need to get through the first 20-30 minutes without conceding a goal.
Yeah, I've got Rangers to win it comfortably 2-0, and it's a roughy, comfortable 2-0.
I've got 2-1. I think Rangers, again, tough game during the week. Fairly lengthy trip back from the Czech Republic, and whether he makes changes or not, I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think they're more solid now with Suter coming back in?
Yeah, I think he's a good player, Peter. Aye. The interesting one for me tomorrow will be, does he stick with Lammers and Dessers, who were both poor at the weekend? Does he bring in somebody else? Does he bring in a Scott Wright or something, and then change it up front? Because I think he's a bit of a whipping boy at the minute, Dessers. I don't think the fans are having him at all.
It's the first time Rangers have been a side where you're not really looking with any great fear at the front line.
Yeah, I mean, Danilo came on the other night and done well, almost scored. I think he's a certain player. I would maybe play him up front. I would play Danilo, I'd bring Danilo in and drop Dessers, and I would bring Cantwell in and drop Lammers. That would be the two for me. If I was a Rangers supporter, I'd be looking, turning up the game and going, right, I hope Danilo plays and I hope Cantwell plays. Because I think with Dessers and Lammers, they're just under the cosh with the fans at the minute, and it's one of the ones, first 5 minutes you take a bad touch, the whole stadium can turn on a player, and it's not nice for the rest of the squad as well. So I think that Dessers and Lammers will both maybe start on the bench tomorrow, and we'll bring in Danilo and Cantwell. Yeah,
interesting. How do you see it going? Rangers against Hearts. Can Hearts somehow muster a performance? The Jambos fans are not happy, and certainly from the comments that they've been sending us, it's not all going according to plan with Stevie Naismith as the outright manager. And of course, let's not forget, there was that kind of murky situation in Europe where somebody was in charge for European games, and
he disappeared, didn't he?
Frankie McAvoy.
Right front and centre.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just a nonsense. The whole thing is a nonsense. If there's a loophole anywhere, football tends to look for it, and you only have to look at what's happening and unfolding down south, because quite simply Everton could be deducted 12 points for financial fair play irregularities. They've got a couple that have been picked up on. Manchester City have got about 150 charges to answer.
Aye, I had Chelsea that list surely as well, with them money they've spent.
Yeah,
it seems to be that they threaten these clubs that we're going to deduct 2 points, but it never really happens. The top teams I'm talking about, not your Wigans and your teams maybe lower down.
Yeah,
I think the top teams, to go and deduct Man City points, you better have a
rock solid case.
Yes,
yeah,
and it's probably the same with Everton. They're to build a new stadium as well. Minus 12 points, they'd be bottom of the league, and so you better have a rock bottom, in terms of figures and finances, to go after teams like that of that size.
Sheffield United are there at the bottom on 1 point, but if Everton suddenly start from a minus, Sean Dyche has got the most difficult job of all time. And of course, if you are in a situation where you have financial irregularities, buying players in a January transfer window seems so far away. Tam, I'm interested, just before we get ready to say farewell to everyone, I'm interested in the scores today. We might be able to get some managers and players into you before we go off air, but the reaction from the Scottish Premiership, if you think that today St Johnstone may well be looking for a new manager, if indeed the board decide enough is enough with Stephen McLean, that's the bottom place where they're cut adrift at the moment, not too far adrift I have to say. What do you think is going to be the third position? Because St Mirren, I think, on a 4-0 win today against St Johnstone, have been absolutely superb. the big problem that Stephen Robinson will highlight to everyone is trying to sustain that with the squad depth that he's got is going to be tough.
And it's also going to be tough, Peter, because there'll be prying eyes in his team. You know, there'll be players in that St Mirren team who'll be catching eyes at bigger clubs, and that could be January, it could be the end of the season. You know, there's a lot of players in that St Mirren team are performing really, really well. Bacchus, Strain, international players for Australia. So there might be clubs in Asia in the January window, whatever, come in with a big bid and they lose them. So whenever a St Mirren or a St Johnstone or anybody like that is doing really well and punching above their weight, their best players inevitably get cherry picked. So he'll just be looking to try and keep that squad to for now at the end of the season. Maybe add another one or two. He's got the boy Jonah and a Chunga coming back as well, who's a good player. And he'll strengthen them as well. So it's too early to say at the minute. I think you would expect Hibs and Hearts and Aberdeen to get their act together at some point. But it's a great opportunity for St Mirren with a settled team, settled manager to put points on the board, and they're doing that at the minute. And Hearts are toiling, Aberdeen in Europe, and Hibs in a bit of transition. So listen, if St Mirren can look after, Celtic Rangers are hard games. If St Mirren can beat St Johnstone, can beat Livingston, can beat Dundee, can beat Ross County and pick up all the points, then they're going to be difficult to catch for third.
And as you see by the table, Tam, they are managing to do that. I mean, this is the table.
7 points clear, Peter. You know, that's a big gap already.
It's absolutely magnificent. I mean, he is this season, I think, highlighting and embarrassing other managers with what he's doing with the resources. And to be fair, St Mirren, and no disrespect to them, it's great that he's doing.
They'll be delighted that Celtic drop points as well. Same back in the title race.
Yeah, well, listen, can I just say something? I know you're being flippant and facetious for that. Listen, good job you're not speaking in Paisley time you get knocked out. But if you look at that situation there are clubs who might be looking and saying, well, maybe we should be looking at Stephen Robinson as the manager, when eventually, undoubtedly, Tam, and I think we only have to look and understand the nature of our division. Managers are getting sacked, and usually the average now is anything between 4 and 7 managers lose their job. I mean, because they're firing them, you know, right, left and centre. Last season, 7 or 8 managers had lost their job.
Yeah, but I think in terms of, we're talking about Hearts, Stephen Naismith under a wee bit of pressure in my opinion. If he gets sacked, Stephen Robinson's surely at the top of the list for them. I think he deserves a bigger job at Hearts or a Hibs or an Aberdeen. I think he's done enough at St Mirren, he's done enough at Motherwell to merit getting one of these jobs, you know, a more prestigious job, no offence to St Mirren. So they'll be the ones that, for me, if a Hearts job comes up for grabs, the St Mirren fans will be dreading it. They'll think they might lose the manager, but he's doing tremendously well. 18 points, 7 points clear of fourth. Again, it depends on the run again. I don't know St Mirren's fixture list coming up, but if they've got an opportunity, if they can stay away from Celtic Rangers, to maybe put more points on the board, because Hibs, Aberdeen, Hearts not firing all cylinders at the minute, even though Hibs got a good point today.
Yeah, absolutely, and it'll be really interesting to see the manner of the game tomorrow at Ibrox as to whether Hearts can put up a fight, can get something positive from it, and maybe get a little bit of the pressure off Stevie Naismith, and he is feeling it, you can tell. I'm a big fan of Stevie Naismith, I like him as a person. We had him here working with us, Tam, as you well know, and you want him to try and succeed, just as you do so many of the young managers coming in, whether it's a Stevie Naismith, a Barry Robson, or a Stephen McLean. But there is that moment, and I go back to Stephen Hamill, there is that moment when sometimes I'm sitting in a press conference and I can see a manager and that look on their face, which is just
run out of ideas.
It's gone. It's a 1,000-yard stare, and it's just looking with pain at every result that comes their way.
Yeah, and listen, it's a horrible place to be, and obviously Stephen Hamill suffered that at Motherwell. Steve McLean's going through that as well. Both young, inexperienced managers thrown in. You know, when the manager left, they looked within and they promoted a youth coach or a reserve coach up. And I still think it's more, you know, it's better for managers to go away in the lower leagues and make mistakes rather than being promoted straight away. Go down to the first division, second division, third division, and cut your teeth, make your mistakes, and then work your way up. Because if you do that, you've got a better grounding in the game. And if you don't do that, if you're a Stephen Hamill and you go in and you fail in your first job, as Stephen McLean, if you get sacked to St Johnstone, you're not going to get another job in management. You maybe get back into a youth setup, but you're not going to get another job in management. So your first job's always crucial. And unfortunately for Stephen McLean, it looks as if it's not going to work out for him.
Yeah. Is this the night when maybe St Johnstone decide that they're going to have to look for a new manager, or will they stick by Stephen McLean and say, no, he needs time, he needs backing, we can see what he's doing in the background, and we're going to try and help him. Certainly at this moment they are cut adrift at the bottom of the table and desperately need to try and find goals from somewhere. And usually, on the evidence of what we've witnessed, if you suddenly have a player who has 10, 15 goals in him in any of the teams at the bottom end, it's usually the difference between, staying up or going down.
St Johnstone have got 10, 15 goals in the whole team at the minute. They've scored 3 in 9 games. I can't believe it. That's incredible. He must be pulling his hair out, Stephen McLean. And I heard them the other week saying, we banged them in training and all that, and we're good in training, we look sharp, but I'm afraid that doesn't count on a Saturday. You've got to be able to produce it at the weekend. So, no, he's... As I said, there are teams down the bottom that have got goals in them, but St Johnstone certainly don't have anything in them. They're conceding goals as well. They were always a stuffy team to beat over the last couple of seasons. They're always solid at the back. They've lost big players, Rooney, for example, down south, and they don't look the same team at all now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a difficult afternoon for St Johnstone. It's been a great afternoon for Hibernian. Just a quick recap on the scores before we go for you. And quite simply, on this Saturday afternoon, it started off at Easter Road, where all eyes on Hibs against Celtic. Could Celtic continue their impressive form, certainly from a 2-2 draw against Atletico Madrid, when, of course, you looked at them coming out of the traps with a 2-0 advantage, 2-1 eventually, and then pegged back in the second half to 2-2 against Atletico and getting their first point in that group. They were impressive at times, and many people predicted they would run right all over the top of Hibernian. It didn't materialise because, quite simply, it finished 0-0, and great credit, they rode their luck at times, but you make your own luck, and Nick Montgomery, he's been adventurous at times, and he's got his just rewards at home today.
Yeah, he has, and as I said at the start of the game, they would have settled for that. They've worked a lot in training this week defensively, clearly, and to stop a Celtic team with Kyogo and Maeda and O'Reilly, who's on fire at the minute, and to stop them scoring the goals is no mean feat. So great point for Hibs. They'll take that forward into the games. They've came through a tough run. Hearts away, Rangers away, Celtic at home. They've picked up 2 points. Could have been worse, could have been better, but all in all, they've got that tough run out the way, and now they can look ahead to the games and start to put a run together. Yeah, absolutely. Elsewhere, it was Livingston 0, Dundee 2. Joe Shaughnessy scoring the goals there. Livingston, Montagna sent off, down to 10 men, and Dundee capitalised. Tony Docherty, a happy man with the way. They were able to get all 3 points, and suddenly they're in the top half of the table. Motherwell 3-1 down. Looked as if Ross County were going to head up to Dingwall. Delighted at their performance, but Motherwell showed their fighting spirit, and Stuart Kettlewell's side managed to get 2 goals back and salvage a point there. Motherwell 3, Ross County 3, and the big scoreline from that match at the Smeetsa Stadium was St Mirren 4, St Johnstone 0. That's how it looks in the Scottish Premiership today. Dropped points for Brendan Rodgers' Celtic. Great chance for Rangers to capitalise as they take on Hearts tomorrow. We'll have reports across all our social media channels for that match. And let's not forget also Kilmarnock will take on Aberdeen. Can Barry Robson somehow galvanise his side after the disappointment of losing in the Europa Conference League against PAOK in midweek? And Derek McInnes will be hoping his side can produce better performances. Only 2 wins and 9 in the league for them. They'll be looking to try and get another win on the board that can catapult them further up the table. All to play for. Don't forget to download the PLZ Soccer app. That will give you all the breaking football news. You'll be able to see some of the managers' interviews on that on our YouTube channel and across all our social media platforms, not only Facebook but Twitter as well. From Tam McManus and from myself, Peter Martin. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you on Monday when hopefully Lee McCulloch will be in the chair this Monday alongside Tam and Alan Ruff. Have a great weekend.